Well, we're like a minute late.
Well, I think you're allowed. I think you're allowed. It's your stream.
Okay, well, anyway, I hope I didn't keep anybody. Welcome, Netter of Netter's Network. Anyway, it looks like she's the first one.
In fairness, I know there's a good number of our regulars that are still over at Moira Kitty's stream. They'll be joining us shortly, so
Welcome.
they won't even notice.
Anyway, welcome everyone to Geeky Geezers. I'm your host, Agent Boomer. This is my co-host, PaPa Pacelli.
Hello, hello.
All right, look at it. Troy gets all the hearts. Look at that, huh?
Well, it helps when you got your wife in the chat.
KHC 2005, welcome. Crispy, welcome. Always welcome, Crispy. Got to get his Twitter. I might come up with a fake email address. You could send me his Twitter address too. All right. Big Al presents. Have a great stream, geezers. I was on a stream with Big Al last night over on Netter's Network. What did we watch?
We watched the 1978 made-for-television film Doctor Strange, and it lived up to its name.
It was a feast for the senses.
It was trippy. It was trippy, is what it was.
Now, if that was made in the 80s, it wouldn't have Doctor Strange would instead just be a stage magician that would use like parlor tricks to solve crimes. There wouldn't be any supernatural stuff, right?
Well, actually, it's funny you say that because we did a lot of talking about the Lou Ferrigno Hulk.
Yes.
And to be honest with you, Bill Bixby also played basically that role, a stage magician that used his abilities. Yes.
I've heard of that show. I need to check that out. Mm-hmm. Yes, he did do a show where he was a stage magician.
Yeah.
How they think of everything, don't they?
Yep.
All the great TV shows have already been made. No, what's the point of watching?
This is why I say, there's nothing new under heaven. It really pisses me off when people point out, Star Wars was based on, Dune and, this and that and the other. It's like, you know what? That's every story in the world. That's the way it goes.
Deleted scenes in the chat. Anyway, no, I'm kidding. It's okay. We're all friends here. Plus, I argued that no, Star Wars ripped off Galactic Patrol from B. Doug Smith. What do I know? Never mind. I'm kidding.
Well, and George Lucas has gone out of his way to talk about how he based it on Akira Kurosawa and so many other things.
The whole thing with the secret base on a stream with Mara. Leaving a comment will be on here later. That's not good enough. Do better.
Oh, jeez.
I'm kidding. Agent Boomer, welcome. Oh, wait, that's me. Never mind.
Welcome, Agent Boomer.
Who else is here? Geek Flag, what's up, my fellow?
Or as someone else put it, Ancient Boomer.
Oh, I feel like a geezer today. I went out with a friend to go see... like Regal does their anniversary movies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, they had a showing of Ghost in the Shell 2: Innocence, the anime sequel to the original Ghost in the Shell movie, and it's now 20 years old. I'm feeling ancient. I remember when that was brand spanking new, and everyone was, and all the anime freaks were hyped about it, and now it's a 20-year-old movie, and I'm just old.
Well, in fairness, I mean, you did say you went with a friend, so hey, at least you have a friend.
There we go. Yes. Good evening, guys. Welcome. All right. So here we are. We got a lot of shoe ground to cover tonight. A certain House of Mouse is going to be.
It's been a dismal week for Disney. Yeah.
Whenever we're done talking about it started out as a great week for Disney, and then it slowly slid into.
Oh, there is no victory Disney can have that they can't, or what should I say? No victory that they can't overshadow with numerous defeats.
But first, we're going to talk about the good old days.
And what are we going to talk about in the good old days? What were good about the good old days?
We're going to talk about Super Nintendo. You've heard of Nintendo, correct?
Yes, it's the mild-mannered version, that would take off its glasses and put on a cape to become Super Nintendo, right?
Okay. The original NES had Super Mario Bros. On it. It had Mega Man and Ninja Gaiden and the original 3 Castlevania games and everything. But no, we're talking about the follow-up, the Super Nintendo. Look at that beauty. Wow. Back then, game console, 2 controllers, and a game cartridge. trying to remember what this ran for. Was it $199 or was it $149? I don't remember back in the day. Keep in mind this was early '90s money, and a teenage boomer. I think he just recently became a teenager. Saw this being previewed in Nintendo Power and realized and thought in his head, why did I get the TurboGrafx 16? I should have just waited. But that's okay. Eventually, I did scrimp and save my allowance money and did get this in the following spring. So this is the Super Nintendo Super Set. There's the Super Nintendo console. You like the form factor? It's okay if you think it's hideous. Well, everyone did.
Well, it looks like it should fold out into a robot or something.
The European and Japanese consoles, I mean, they're still great, but they look like a normal game console you plug in your TV. This looks like, I forgot who they got to design this for the North American market. It was some kind of, I guess, home decor guy. I don't know. This is what it looked like. Purple and gray. So there we go. Yeah. People complain about Nintendo using purple. Well, it started here. They like to use purple in their console schemes for some whatever reason. But there it is. I will say this thing had an eject button in the middle, that little gray strip. You press that down, it ejects the cartridges out. Pretty clever. Has a power on button and a reset button. Could output in S video. Not just component, also S video.
I have no idea what that means.
You don't know what S video is.
I have no idea.
You know what? Okay, there's composite. That's the composite is the, remember the jacks? It was the white and red for the stereo, and then the yellow for the picture.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. S video was a special jack. Instead of the yellow, you got a special S video jack, and it would split the picture twice. It would split it in half to make it more boisterous and vibrant.
Oh, okay.
And component video, which later came with the advent of DVD and other video game consoles later on, would split it 3 ways. And then after that, we get HDMI cables. But this was what we had, at least here in North America. I know that Europe had the whole other can of worms.
Yeah.
That people often talk about SCART over there. But anyway, the point is that this could input. If you had the right setup, you get some pretty good picture quality from this for back in the day. There is the controller. Look at that. You have not like the NES controller. We got a lot more buttons. You have the classic D-pad. You have an A and B button like on the original NES controller, but also a Y and X button. And on the top are 2 trigger buttons, left and right. And also start and select button. That is 8 buttons at your disposal.
Wow.
It was a big deal.
Yeah, see, here's the problem for a guy like me.
Yes.
That many buttons gets confusing, and I'd be hitting the kneel button when I'm trying to shoot or something like that.
Well, then
and that gets you killed.
Then go buy a Sega Genesis. They only have 3 buttons. Eventually, they came out
Atari 2600, 1 button,
yes.
one stick.
I've heard many people get angry and said this is what threw them off Nintendo when they started releasing too many buttons on their joysticks. You get used to it. The little light purple ones, those are concave. That was exclusive to North America. We had the concave upper buttons. When I bought wireless controllers, Super Nintendo controllers for my high definition Super Nintendo, there's where they make some. I always make sure to get the American scheme to get those concave buttons because that's what I'm used to.
And okay. That actually kind of makes sense. I can totally see having the. You don't look at it, you feel it. You get used to, and your thumb is on the wrong button if it's not the concave one or vice versa.
Right. The idea was, I used to have B and A, like A was jump, B was action. On this, it was B was jump and Y was action. And then you'd have the X and A buttons for other things. And you'd have trigger buttons that were useful in like racing games and, well, things we'll get into a little bit. There we have Super Mario World. It was originally dubbed as Super Mario Brothers 4, but it became Super Mario World. This is the brand new Mario Adventure included with the console. Because Nintendo used to include games for the consoles when they sold them. They didn't start doing that again, I think, until the Switch came. Until the no, not the Switch. The Wii came out with the Wii Sports.
Well, just a reminder: Atari 2600 came with a cartridge too.
It was a standard thing. Sega gave you a cartridge with their console when you bought their console. Came with a cartridge. In fact, one of the Master Systems had the game built into the console. It wasn't even a cartridge. You just played from the actual system.
Well, and ultimately it's like, and I'm afraid you're going to tell me, that my thinking on this is wrong, but I can't imagine a console being sold without some sort of a game you can play out of box. Are you going to tell me that they sell a big lump of plastic that you have to buy another cartridge for? It's not enough to just get the game system?
Well, yeah, with the N64. With the
God.
Nintendo 64, and everyone wanted Super Mario 64. You had to get that separate. They didn't give you that with the console.
There was no game that came with the console at all?
Not with the Nintendo 64, and it doesn't matter because that was the hot thing.
Yay! I got it's Christmas, and I got a 64, and I can't do a thing with it.
You think that's bad? Later on, consoles needed memory cards, and you couldn't save your game without the memory card. These at least had built-in batteries with them. I literally, oh boy, here we go.
Well, you couldn't save your games on Atari 2600 either, so
I literally got into physical fights as kids with the Genesis stands. Oh, this happened. This actually happened.
Yeah.
Sega fans and Nintendo fans got into physical fights. I heard about it happening with kids when I was in grammar school, and it was about the Sega Master System versus the NES. This was even before the Super Nintendo, and kids were getting into fist fights. Because here's what happens. When you're a kid, you can't own both. You're lucky if you have one console. Yeah. Okay? If your parents, or if you scrimped and save, or your parents got you one game console, you ain't getting two unless you're...
Well, like I said, you're lucky to have a console and a game. You could just have a console and not be able to do nothing with it.
Anyway, you got a game with this. Nintendo was good back then, and you even got manuals. Now, Sega would give you these nice hard plastic cases to keep the game in with the manual. Rather
nice.
Didn't get that with the Super Nintendo, and I always thought Nintendo cheaped out. But in retrospect, it's not that Nintendo cheaped out, they just prioritized different things. These manuals they gave you, full color, unlike the Sega manuals, which had a color cover but were black and white on the inside. Oh. So you get something, you lose something. So I'm not really, I mean, the color manuals are rather nice. This is what would be inside the manual. Look at that. Look at that. Full color. I mean, that's good. So you don't get the case to keep it in, but, you know, buy a special Super Nintendo shelf, which I still have, or a game drawer.
I mean, and it looks like this would, you know, usually you don't have any enjoyment from reading a manual. That looks like this might actually be fun. It's interesting to look at. Looks like there's probably some lore hidden in here and stuff. I mean, that looks like a fun read, actually.
Yeah. Oh, Geek Flag says, yes, Nintendo 64 had... We'll do the Nintendo 64 at another stream sometime, but you had no game and only one joystick. I want to make a point. They gave you 2 controllers with this. Good on them.
Yeah.
It's always nice to get two
so you
joysticks.
Could play. You had a game to play, and you could play with a friend.
And this is 2 players.
Out of the box.
It's 2-player alternating. One would play as Mario, and then when Mario dies, then the other kid would take over as Luigi and play Luigi until Luigi dies. But the big thing about the Super Nintendo was it could do 16-bit graphics. Look at these transparency effects with those clouds. Those
that is
go
pretty
over
cool.
Mario. That was... I don't even know if Sega could do that at that point. I'm sure they might have figured out a way to do it on there later, but Sega was...
That's more than cloud. That's mist.
Yes,
you know, which adds to the ghost house,
house,
ambiance. Yeah.
There's a little map you would go around on the board, like in the original. It's kind of neat. I mean, this was a big deal. And you know, there's something you fight in some lava stage. Actually, I don't think you can fight. I think you have to avoid it. I don't think you can kill that thing. But big deal console. I'm not going to spend too much time on Castlevania. I've spoken about this before, but I remember this was the game that got me to buy the Super Nintendo because I wanted Castlevania 4 so badly. It was like, because I was always a huge Castlevania fan of the NES, and then I saw this, and I was like, I need this system. So this was the first game I bought. I think I bought this ahead of getting the system because the catalog had it for $30-something. I was like, what? This was like $60 a few months ago, and I was like, I had to order it through the mail. Had my parents write out something called a check. And I gave them my allowance money for the check, and then I had to send it, and you have to wait forever for this thing to come in the mail because the check has to clear.
You know what's funny though is all the mail-ins that I used to do, especially for like action figures and stuff, there was a lot of anticipation and excitement waiting for those deliveries, you know?
Yeah. There you go. There's Frankenstein.
Yep.
You gotta have Frankenstein in the Castlevania game. This was the next game I got for the Super Nintendo, ActRaiser, Create Order from Chaos. I mean, what else do I need to sell me?
Yeah.
Just put that on the box. This game, you play as a supreme being named the Master. I don't want to say you're playing God, but it's basically what you're playing in this game. And I guess you've been hurt, and the evil Tanzra has taken over the world. The demon Tanzra. Funny how he's called Tanzra in the North American version. The Japanese version, he's just called Satan. But
oh, okay, there you go.
it would have side-scrolling levels where you'd fight a boss, and all the levels were based on different mythologies from around the world. So this is like, I guess, more like a Greek stage.
Sure.
And then you would fight like an Egyptian-style stage and things like that. I guess the idea is these different demons working under Tanzra are based on some of these old mythological gods. But there was also a sim mode. So whenever you would beat a pre-level, you would actually start a sim mode and raise your people. They'd build you a temple. They'd farm crops, and you'd have to stop the demons from attacking their houses and farmland. And then you'd eventually have to seal up all the demon things and get everything built up. And then you would enter a final level to complete that stage, and then go to the next. So it had almost like it's almost like a light version of Populous.
Wow.
Or
sure.
Sim City, and it was really neat. And there you're playing as that's a little cherub that works for you to help you out in the town, neat. So you control him during the stages. Very, very cool game. I have to say, one time I found out that some villagers betrayed me, and it was like they were worshiping Tanzra, and I don't know if they came to apologize or something, and I think I destroyed their house, which was not benefit to me at all. In fact, it was detrimental, but I didn't care. I was mad because I'm sorry. Sure. Let's not go here anyway.
You're a vengeful god. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, here we go. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Never really played a Zelda game. I played them in passing on the NES. I wasn't as impressed, but I got this because it reminded me of those dungeon rooms that KSM put out for D&D games, where you could look down and you'd see these rooms.
Right.
It was almost like they're taking that same input. This is the first 16-bit Legend of Zelda game. Big deal. I remember the commercial said, just when you think the game is you're finally finished, you find you're just beginning. And the idea was you're fighting the evil wizard, and then you beat him, and then he transports you to another world, which is a dark version of Hyrule. Like where everything, it's like the same overlay, but everything's warped. I'm going to say, what do I want to say? It's like the what's that thing on Stranger Things?
The Upside Down.
The Upside Down, kind of like that. And that's where the evil Ganon reigns. In the evil dark world, and you have to stop him there, and you would go back and forth. So instead of like Ocarina of Time, where it's you going backward and forward in time and the overlay stays, this is you're going into like a dark version of the world, so it's like another dimension. So like you're going between dimensions. But had really cool bosses. Those are a bunch of evil knights you have to fight. In fact, the first part of the game is you trying to rescue Princess Zelda from being kidnapped by the evil wizard. But
princesses are always getting kidnapped.
Yes. And what's neat about this Zelda game, though, is you see how he's on the bottom there. You actually climb down the stairs. There's actually 2 levels. Do you understand? So you'd start on the top level and go down. That wasn't featured in the NES Zelda, so the levels had more depth to them, and the puzzles were more intricate, more streamlined. Just an excellent Super Nintendo game. Played it the summer of, I think that was 92. That's when I had this. I was playing this in the summer of 1992. A lot of fun. Contra 3: The Alien Wars, much like Castlevania, the NES classic Contra gets a Super Nintendo version. Much like how Castlevania kind of takes things from old Universal horror movies, this takes things from 80s action movies.
There you go.
You're playing, except this one took place in the future instead of the present, so you're like the descendants of the characters in the first game. And you're fighting all sorts of things like from Terminator or Alien and things like that. It's like a lot of little nods. In fact, there's even a nod to the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, because you fight man-faced butts in one scene,
gosh,
which is a reference to Invasion of the remake with Donald Sutherland. We'll talk about that. This was the big win for the Super Nintendo, Street Fighter II.
Yeah.
This was the huge arcade game, and it was a Super Nintendo exclusive. This is all the Genesis. This is what got the Genesis guys really steamed, because they wanted this game on the Genesis, and it was on Super Nintendo. This is just basic Street Fighter 2. You can only play as the 8 characters in it. There's not even a turbo mode like in later editions, but for the time, this was a big deal. There's Blanca, there's Ken. Teenage Ninja Turtles in Time, Teenage Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. You love this artwork, huh? And 16-bit graphics based off the second arcade game, not the first one, which you may have played, and just excellent. You could throw. Actually, that's just right. You could actually throw the foot soldiers into the screen. And they would actually had mode 7 scaling. The big thing about the Super Nintendo was it had mode 7. So it would sort of 3D-ish effects, where sprites
Right.
become bigger or smaller.
Right.
Here we go. Super Star Wars. I think I mentioned this on the Lucasfilm stream, but here you go. You play through the entire Star Wars movie, and there's some creative license. That's a monster you fight in the Sandcrawler.
Okay.
There's a monster you fight.
Yeah, I don't remember that one from the movie.
What about the cantina? Is this from the movie, maybe? Maybe he was in the cantina scene. There's Chewbacca. You can play as Chewbacca.
I'll tell you what, that actually looks like something from the holographic chessboard.
You're right. That's probably where they took it from. Look at this. Imperial Defense Droid.
Okay. Seems like it was a little bit of a rip-off of RoboCop. Although, I mean, it is a little like an AT-PT from the prequels, so...
I will say this I think these were made in-house at Lucasfilm, and I think they licensed it out to JVC, and then later on I think Nintendo published this as a greatest hits title. We did get sequels to this, Super Empire Strikes Back and Super Return of the Jedi in subsequent years, and we even got an Indiana Jones game done in this style called Indiana Jones's Greatest Adventures, which is basically the first 3 movies, which are the greatest adventures. But
exactly true. Yeah.
Mode 7, get through the Death Star run. Look at that, huh?
Nice.
I mean, primitive by today's standards, but pretty impressive. Talk about the Nintendo Virtual Boy next week. I never had one. Anyway, I'll get to your comments when I'm done. I'm sure people have memories. Prince of Persia. Okay, what's the big deal? Prince of Persia was on everything. PC, old Nintendo, Sega Master System, Sega Genesis, Sega CD. Everyone had Prince of Persia. But the Super Nintendo version was unique because Konami made it, and Konami didn't just do a port. They basically remade the game.
Yeah.
Levels are longer with different... Levels are tweaked, so they're not the same, and some levels are entirely new. In fact, they added so many new levels that it actually has a 2-hour count for you to beat the game instead of 1 hour. But big fan of this, the whole cinematic platforming game, which was becoming big, where they would film an actual actor and then you'd move the character around. He would have real movements. Big fan of this one. I love the music in this too. Very Middle Eastern, like Arabian Nights sounding stuff. And of course, Super Mario Kart. Have you heard of Mario Kart?
I have heard of it, yes.
Where racing becomes an adventure. Mode 7 graphics, you could play it with 2 players. Look at that, and the racetrack would actually move with you. So, pretty impressive for the time. Obviously, it's been supplanted by future sequels on other systems, but it got the job done on the NES, and it was pretty cool. Big popular one with my friends, actually, the next to Street Fighter. This was a big popular one on the NES. I'm going to take a little break, read what the chat has to say. Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat were fun to play on the SNES. Yeah, I didn't bring up Mortal Kombat here, but that was a big deal. I remember getting Mortal Kombat 2 when it came out on the Super Nintendo, because finally we got a version of it that wasn't censored, because Nintendo made sure the first Mortal Kombat had all the blood and gore censored on the Super Nintendo version. Boo! ActRaiser was too easy. Good game, though, and ActRaiser 2 was too hard. ActRaiser 2 was misery. I got that for Christmas in '93, and I was so excited, and it's a beautiful game. Has a rich, like, almost classical music score, but I'll never know how good it is because it's impossible to play because it's too darn hard. I'll say that, okay? That was a $60 game, too. That's the thing. The games back then cost $60. This wasn't anything new. I need to go back and play Super Castlevania. First, I have to find it. Yeah, like I said, anyone who has a modern console, you get it in the Castlevania collection. But other than that, you can probably find the cartridge. I don't know if it's a horribly expensive Super Nintendo cartridge. But don't forget F-Zero. I did forget F-Zero, but that was a popular racing game also at the time. The reason I didn't bring up F-Zero because I didn't actually own it during my initial run with the Super Nintendo. I got it many years later. In fact, I got it sometime in the 2000s, and I got it for like $19.99, which was dirt cheap, and it was brand new. You don't find that now. Now a mint Super Nintendo cartridge, I don't care what it is, it's going to go for money. Go with Mario Kart, one of my favorites of all time, especially when playing with competitive friends. Yeah, well, it started here. Here we go. Star Fox. What do you think?
Again, I heard of it, never played it.
That's Fox McCloud. I'm assuming of the Clown McCloud. But That's a joke. Anyway, this was a big deal because in Nintendo Power, it was talking about these new kind of graphics they've been helping develop called polygon graphics. Do you get where I'm going with this?
Yes, I do. It's the evolution of graphics. Yeah.
They gave you a little like punch out air wing. The names of the ships in this game were air wings, and you would have to fold it together. And the idea was to give you the player an understanding of how these 3D objects are created in the game by you making a puppet. Like trying to fold the air wing out from the magazine. It comes with the Super FX chip. Had to have a special chip in each cartridge to make this game work, and I'll show it to you. Look at that. Now, I'll say this. When I first saw this in Nintendo Power, the magazine, I was not all that impressed with the graphics. I'm like, it wasn't until my brother brought it home, because he worked, I think, at a gaming store at the time, and brought it home because he was in charge of some kind of Star Fox tournament over the weekend. So he brought that home to try out the game and let me try it. And as soon as I played it for a little bit, I'm like, I'm getting this for my birthday. It is one of my favorite Super Nintendo games. This is the first time ever in a video game where you would be flying around in your spaceship and you'd see a spaceship off in the distance with a hatch opening, and then it would come closer and closer, and then you go inside the spaceship and start shooting at things.
Yeah.
This is on 16-bit. Now, granted, primitive compared to what they do with 3D graphics now, but this was, at the time, a big deal.
Right.
And it was really neat. There were secret stages. There was you could get stuck in a black hole in one stage. But this is almost, I don't want to say like Nintendo. This is like Nintendo's big space opera, except all the characters are animals. They're anthropomorphic.
Well, furries, yeah.
Well, no. Like the evil villain is an ape named Andros. The guy giving you missions is called General Pepper. He's like a bulldog. It's but it's all done seriously, except they're all animals.
Yeah.
But look at that. That was pretty neat. They would shoot things at you, would get bigger. I mean, for the time, this was a big deal. I'm not gonna. There were a lot of licensed games based on whatever popular movie or cartoon at the time. A lot of them were crap. But this one, based on Batman Returns from Konami, was rather good. This is based on the Batman Returns movie. They actually went to the trouble of licensing the Danny Elfman score. You had full digital images of Michelle Pfeiffer and Danny DeVito and Michael Keaton. You would beat up clowns, which is always fun.
Of course.
So
that is true. No, you're not wrong about that.
This was a very good video game adaptation of Batman Returns, so that's worth checking out. Super Mario All-Stars. This came out in the fall of '93. The idea behind this is, do you like those old Mario games on the NES? Here's 4 of them for you. Basically, 16-bit versions of Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Brothers 3, and the special Super Mario Brothers The Lost Levels, because, as we know, in Japan, we never got the Japanese Super Mario Brothers 2, which was like a harder version of the original game. So over here, they just dubbed it The Lost Levels. The same cartridge came out in Japan, and they called Super Mario Brothers 2, our version of it, Super Mario USA.
Right.
But 16-bit versions of the classic Super Mario Brothers game. So that's kind of neat. Better graphics, right?
Yep.
With 4 games on one cartridge, hey, I'm sold. The Secret of Mana. This is probably my first big SquareSoft, now known as Square Enix RPG. This was a action RPG where up to 3 players could play simultaneous. Rather deep. In Japan, this is known as Final Fantasy Adventure. But yeah, big deal game. Mega Man X. This is the Super Nintendo version of... It's almost like how you have the original Star Trek and Star Trek The Next Generation. This is like Mega Man The Next Generation. This is a Mega Man robot created by the original Dr. Light that's put into storage and revived like 100 or 200 years later. So this is like Mega Man of the future, even though original Mega Man is in the future too, but this is further in the future. Do you understand?
Yeah, I get you.
But yeah, this is considered many people's favorite Super Nintendo game. This was like a great action platformer with intricate bosses and kind of a pretty deep storyline actually too. But here's another huge deal: Super Metroid. This is Samus Aran from the original NES game and Game Boy game. Now this is Metroid 3. And a lot of exploration, but instead of being overhead like in a Zelda game, it's side-scrolling. So you explore levels and going back and forth and uncovering, different items like special misses to blow open doors. Science fiction themed. You're intergalactic bounty hunter up against the evil space pirates. There's one of them stealing the last of the Metroids, which the evil Mother Ring wants to use to destroy galactic civilization. So
Right.
Okay, but classic side-scrolling, cool graphics. This is many people's favorite Super Nintendo game. In fact, I think at EGM at one point it was even ranked the best video game of all time. So, big deal. Final Fantasy III, also known as Final Fantasy VI in Japan. This is, of course, a big deal RPG on the NES. Features one of the greatest video game villains of all time named Kefka, who always had this really hideous laugh when he would come on screen, and he dressed like a fop, kind of like a 17th century fop, or 18, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, but a big deal if you're a role-playing fan. Super Metroid was my favorite game on the Super Nintendo, yeah. Super Nintendo was an okay game, but the sequel is one of the greatest action RPGs ever made. Well, that sequel never made it to the Super Nintendo. You're thinking of Trials of Mana. Though I think you can get it in a collection now on the Switch. Donkey Kong Country. So here we go. This is... Nintendo was, of course, having a little fight with Sega over the Genesis. And a year prior, Sega Genesis got a game called Disney's Aladdin, where they actually had the Disney animators actually do animation cells to make the characters in the game come to life. And Nintendo didn't have that. So Nintendo put British developer Rare to work and said, we're going to revive Donkey Kong, and we want graphics that will blow people away. Now, these are rendered graphics. So basically, I think they're created on computer first and then digitized. So it's almost like a CG look. I could be wrong here if I'm getting this wrong. But there's Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong. There's water levels. Got 2 sequels, Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Conquest. Not Diddy Kong's Quest, okay? Don't get that confused. People do that a lot. Get to play as Diddy and Dixie Kong. Excited? Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble. So yeah, we get introduced to other Kongs besides Donkey Kong. You have Diddy Kong and you have Dixie Kong, the blonde, and she wears a beret because women in the 90s wore berets, remember? That's
just what you did.
Okay. All right, let's wrap this up. Killer Instinct. Rest in peace, Rare. Yes, thank you, Microsoft, for destroying Rare.
Right.
Killer Cuts Music CD included. You got an actual CD with this game. But this was the big Rare fighting game that Nintendo, I guess at that point, owned publishing rights to. This was... I often feel that both Sega and Nintendo came up with their own fighting games for their consoles. Sega had Eternal Champions, Nintendo had Killer Instinct. And they weren't quite as violent as Mortal Kombat, but they were edgier than, like, maybe Street Fighter, right? So, there you go. And they featured rendered graphics the same way as Donkey Kong Country did. And where's the box for Yoshi's Island? I forgot to put the box for Yoshi's Island, darn it. But this is Yoshi's Island. This is, in my opinion, might be my favorite Super Nintendo game. Came with the Super FX2 chip. It was a more advanced version of the one used in Star Fox. But as you can see, it's a 2D side-scroller. But it looks like a children's coloring book, doesn't it?
Kind of does, yeah.
Yeah. And big deal game when it came out. Tetris and Dr. Mario, you get a little Tetris and Dr. Mario action going on. Basically, it's the 2 NES games put into one package. And you could play either Tetris or play Dr. Mario or play a game that was both, where you would switch between modes and it would either be Tetris or Dr. Mario. So
that's weird, but I guess the 2 games are similar enough that they kind of went together, huh?
Yeah, this is more about matching colors. Tetris is about clearing lines and shapes. But yeah, they are kind of similar, yeah. This is Tetris Attack, which has nothing to do with Tetris whatsoever. And Nintendo just slapped Tetris on there because... they had the license for Tetris, which makes it so this game never gets re-released on anything, which is annoying. Just change it.
Yeah.
This series is now known as Puzzle League. But really cool game. You would have to match, I think, 3 or 4 of these different colored shapes together. This one is themed off of Yoshi's Island, but rather cool. And we'll end with the big Super Mario RPG Legend of the 7 Stars. This is where Nintendo commissioned Squaresoft to make a Mario-themed role-playing game for the Super Nintendo. Pretty cool.
Was it a good game?
It's an excellent game. It got a remake on the Switch last year, actually. This shows how much Nintendo held Squaresoft in high esteem. That they gave them that they worked with them on making a Mario RPG, and then Square went to Sony. The next generation, they developed exclusively for Sony for a while. Nintendo was pissed. They were not happy because they didn't want to deal with those big cartridges on the Nintendo 64. They said Sony has these CD-ROMs. We put a lot of information on these. We can make the game multiple discs if we need to, and it's a lot cheaper. So they went with PlayStation, which I understand.
Right on.
Oh, in my opinion, Tetris Attack is one of the best games ever. It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite versus games. One of my favorite puzzle games. Did I ever have a Super Game Boy? I did have a Super Game Boy. I didn't bring it up here. Perhaps if I bring up the Game Boy someday, I'll talk about the Super Game Boy. But Super Game Boy was an adapter you could buy for the Super Nintendo, and you could actually play Game Boy games on your Super Nintendo. Isn't that neat?
That's actually really cool.
And sometimes some of the Game Boy games would be Super Game Boy enhanced. So, like if you played like the Game Boy version of Donkey Kong, put it in the Super Nintendo, it would actually had actual color graphics, and then like the Pauline would say "Help, help" in the Super Nintendo version. It would add a little extra.
That's kind of cool. Is that something that was encoded into the Game Boy cartridge, or was that something? Okay, it was
something encoded into the Game Boy cartridge. Yes,
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and. The best one was the Space Invaders game on the Game Boy. When you would plug it into the Super Nintendo, it would actually turn itself into like a basic Super Nintendo version of Space Invaders, where it wasn't even the Game Boy game anymore. It was an actual Super Nintendo version of Space Invaders.
Wow, but, that's impressive.
Didn't bring that up. We're just gonna. Here it is. This is the. I'm amending the thing here. I think we talked about this long enough, but this is the NES Super Nintendo Junior. Came out after the Nintendo 64 came out. You could buy a miniaturized.
Someone in the chat mentioned this earlier. Yeah.
And this is the version that came with Kirby Superstar. I didn't bring up Kirby Superstar because unfortunately I didn't own it at the time. I was already on the Nintendo 64 when this game came out, but it was a fancy Kirby game for the Super Nintendo that included like a bunch of different smaller games in it. I don't want to say it was like a mini game collection, but it was, it had all these different little Kirby games in it you could play. So
all I know about Kirby is that he was a little gluttonous pudge ball.
Well, yeah. And his enemy is a king that looks like a duck.
Of course obviously.
But anyway, there's the Super Nintendo for you. I only kind of scratched the surface there. There were a lot of other
Tim says, Kirby sucks, then blows.
Also, I didn't bring up Chrono Trigger because we already spent a whole good old days on Chrono Trigger by itself, so I wasn't going to bring that up. I should do the Nintendo Virtual Boy next week. I never owned one. I did try one out, I think in an Office Depot of all places.
Wow.
Back in the day. And I was curious about it, but I never got one, and that thing... One day we'll have to talk about the Virtual Boy. That was a huge disaster for Nintendo.
Yeah.
That's what got Gunpei Yoko fired from the company. He left in disgrace. And he's the guy that invented the D-pad. He invented the Game Boy and invented the Metroid series. People were angry about how Nintendo treated him afterwards. And then, unfortunately, not long after that, he died in a car accident. So that was kind of sad.
That is a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made one screw up. Apparently, Nintendo of America didn't want the Virtual Boy. Nintendo of Japan forced them to release it. We're like, we don't want this. It's not going to sell.
Yeah.
But we'll get into it. This was when virtual reality was all the craze. The idea was people would put the Virtual Boy in their head, and you'd play the games, through the kind of 3D-ish,
Yeah.
Speaking of Star Fox, my favorite by far was the one for the Nintendo 64. I'll say this, the Nintendo 64 Star Fox was cool in that it had full voice acting. So instead of like the little bleeps you heard in the Super Nintendo game, you actually had full-on voice acting. And in the Nintendo 64 game, you have to go up against Andros again and also start the Star Wolf team, which is like an evil version of the Star Fox team. And the head of the Star Wolf team, can you guess? It's a wolf.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And he has an eye patch and a German accent.
Of course.
And then there's the pig that was the one who betrayed Fox's father, so he's part of the team. And then there's Andros, the evil ape scientist. His dim-witted nephew is also the Star Wolf team, but he sounds like a bug. Uncle Andros. It's a funny game if you just listen to the voice acting. It was funny. Star Fox, great game. Crazy that Nintendo was so reluctant to make more games like it. They reused the characters, but was never give us the gameplay. Nintendo has a problem doing Star Fox games. I don't know why. all I want is a kick-ass Star Fox game with great controls. That's me just shooting at other ships. Like, do it like you would a Star Wars game, which is basically what it was supposed to be.
Right.
It's like Nintendo's version of a space opera type game. There are even references in it to like things like Star Trek and Star Wars, like in Gundam. They're little references. Like you fight something in Star Fox 64 that reminds you of the Borg ship.
Right.
But let me see here though. Final Fantasy 3 is the best Final Fantasy. Yep, Kefka, great villain. A lot of people love that. R.I.P. Rare. If I missed any games here, sorry. I tried to focus on Nintendo exclusives, and that's why I mainly picked them. Didn't even get into the whole console war aspect of it because we'll be here all night. But that was the Super Nintendo. Great times. In my opinion, one of the 3 great Nintendo consoles: Super Nintendo, Nintendo GameCube, and I think now Nintendo Switch. If you count the Nintendo Switch as a console, which I do. Some people keep calling it a portable, though. Anyway, welcome to Geeky Geezers, the actual show. Okay. And oh crap! What did I didn't even do a timestamp for Super Nintendo, but that's okay because I'll do timestamp for, unfortunately, our first thing of the night. Well, first let's look at this lovely thumbnail Troy put together.
I was kind of pleased with what I have going on in the lower right hand corner there. I thought that was kind of clever.
Yeah, I think it's pretty impressive. So here we go. I will put 41. Let's just do 41. So here we are. We're going to talk about Willie Mays.
Yeah.
Did you grow up with Willie Mays? Willie Mays.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people know I was never a big sports ball fan, but I remember this. That's a still that was used for his baseball card.
Yep. Willie Mays, the Giants' electrifying "Say Hey Kid," dies at age 93. Willie Mays, the electrifying "Say." Oh, wait, let me go ahead and post the link as well. Willie Mays, the electrifying "Say Hey Kid," whose singular combination of talent, drive, and exuberance made him one of baseball's greatest and most beloved players, has died. He was 93. Mays' family and the San Francisco Giants jointly announced Tuesday night he had died earlier in the afternoon in the Bay Area. "My father has passed away peacefully and among loved ones," son Michael Mays said in a statement released by the club. "I want to thank you all from the bottom of my broken heart for the unwavering love you have shown him over the years. You have been his life's blood." The center fielder, who began his professional career in the Negro Leagues in 1948, had been baseball's oldest living Hall of Famer. He was voted into the Hall in 1979, his first year of eligibility, and in 1999 followed only by Babe Ruth on the Sporting News list of game's top stars. The Giants retired his uniform number, 24, and set their AT&T Park in San Francisco on Willie Mays Plaza. Mays died 2 days before a game between the Giants and St. Louis Cardinals to honor the Negro Leagues at Rickwood Field in Birmingham, Alabama. All of Major League Baseball is in mourning today as we are gathered at the very ballpark where a career and a legacy like no other began. Commissioner Rob Manfred said. Willie Mays took his all-around brilliance from the Birmingham Black Barons of the Negro American Need to the historic Giant franchise. From coast to coast, Willie inspired generations of players and fans as the game grew and truly earned its place as our national pastime. Few were so blessed with each of the 5 essential qualities for superstar: hitting for average, hitting for power, speed, fielding, and throwing. Fewer so joyously exerted those qualities, whether launching home runs, dashing around the bases, loose-fitting cap flying off his head, or chasing down fly balls in center field and finishing the job with his trademark basket catch. Over 23 Major League seasons, virtually all with the New York, San Francisco Giants, but also including one in the Negro Leagues, Mays batted .301, hit 660 0-1s, and total 3,293 hits, scored more than 2,000 runs, and won 12 Gold Gloves. He was Rookie of the Year in 1951, twice was named the most valuable player, and finished in the top 10 for MVP 10 other times. His lightning sprint and over-the-shoulder grab of a parent extra base hit in the 1954 World Series remains the most celebrated defense play in baseball history. When I played ball, I tried to make sure everybody enjoyed what I was doing, Mays told NPR in 2010. I made the clubhouse guy fit me with a cap when I ran. The wind gets up in the bottom and it flies right off. People love that kind of stuff. For millions in the 1950s and 60s and after, the smiling ball player with the friendly high-pitched voice was a signature athlete and showman during an era when baseball was still a signature pastime. What do we think?
I think
Big
he was
deal.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even, like I said, not even a sports fan, and I knew Willie Mays, and man, 93. Come on, give it up. This guy was amazing.
Yeah. I had a reprint of the Willie rookie card. Look at
Yep,
that.
yep.
Oh, good night.
Tim, take care.
All
Thanks for hanging out with us.
right. Hey, Samuel. Hey, Netters. Welcome, Jesse. So, welcome everybody who's just showing up now. We're just talking about the late Willie Mays, but definitely a living legend for most of his life, I think, right? So,
I agree. Absolutely.
but I keep thinking he was on a Drake's Cakes box. I don't know why. That rings a
Possibly.
bell. But let me see here. I need to move these over so I can see the time properly.
And welcome, Mark Melnikoff. Here I are.
All right, and we have, of course, unfortunately, we have another death to talk about. We have Donald Sutherland.
Now this gets me. As I was sharing this, and it sometimes it's just pick and choose which article we choose to go with for any given topic. But this one, Pride and Prejudice and Hunger Games are not the ones I think of when I think of Donald Sutherland.
A lot of the younger people think.
I suppose that's probably the case. I'm thinking MASH. I'm thinking Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Animal House. I mean, so many movies.
Yeah. He was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, as I recall.
Yes, he was. He was the Watcher before Giles takes over. Yes.
Because if you watch the Buffy series, it's pretty well not on the nose that it's the movie happened before the series started, just different.
Yeah. In fact, there is a comic book that bridges the gap between them.
Right. But Donald Sutherland, Pride and Prejudice, Hunger Games star, dead at 88. Actor Donald Sutherland, known for his roles in Hunger Games and Pride and Prejudice, among many others, died on Thursday at the age of 88. Sutherland, who won an Emmy for his performance in Citizen X, died in Miami after a long illness. The creative arts agency CAA told Deadline. The actor's official cause of death remains unclear. The Clute star, who is also the father...
Oh, yeah, Clute. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
Also, the father of actor Kiefer Sutherland was born on July 17th, 1935 in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada, and got his big break in the 1967 World War II drama The Dirty Dozen.
Oh, right. Yeah, my grandfather was a big fan of The Dirty Dozen.
Through his more than 6 years of acting career, Sutherland garnered 200 films and TV credits, including his IMDb page. His 200th acting credit, Heartland, is currently in pre-production. Sutherland also had roles in 1970s film MASH, in which he played Hawkeye Pierce, the 1970 film Kelly's Heroes, which he portrayed Sergeant Oddball alongside actor Clint Eastwood, and the 1973 film Don't Look Now, in which he played John Baxter. I have that on Blu-ray. I got that over the holidays. I need to watch Don't Look Now. It's a spooky movie, from what I've heard. Yeah. It's the beloved actor's extensive acting credits also include Dirty Sexy Money, Trust, The Undoing, and The Pillars of the Earth, among many others. Sutherland also won a Golden Globe for the television movie Path to War, as well as Emmy Award and a Golden Globe for his performance in the miniseries Citizen X. Sutherland is survived by his wife, Francine Ratchet, his sons, Rug, Rosef, Angus, and Kiefer, his daughter Rachel, and 4 grandchildren. I'll say this about Kiefer Sutherland, too. I mean, he's definitely not a Nepo baby. He's earned his chops, I think. Exactly.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it.
Different than his husband, too. It's not husband. Different than his father.
Right.
Excuse me. Okay. Anyway, he played Oddball in Kelly's Heroes, fun character. He's the one that made the thing about the tanks, right? Or about repairing the things, right?
Yep.
I don't dry them. I just repair them. Didn't he make it? Was on the line. Haven't seen Hunger Games in a decade. He was the big villain in that. Snow, right? President Snow. I think that was.
I don't know characters from. Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know Hunger Games?
Not really. No.
Okay, it's a dystopian, young YA series.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this: I thought it was weird how in the aughts, a lot of these YA books were like dystopian, and it was like we hadn't really seen dystopian stuff since the 1970s. So it was almost like a continuation of stuff you saw like with Logan's Run and things like that, and Soylent Green. They were sort of doing that, but with like teenage characters in them. That was sort of what it was. But yeah, he'll be missed, but he's got a great catalog for you to go back and enjoy. I mean, he's just. Do you have a favorite Donald Sutherland movie?
Yeah, I mean, it's movies that he didn't necessarily have the starring roles in. I mean, like I said, Animal House. I thought he was kind of crazy brilliant in that one. But yeah, I think my favorite one, the first one that comes to mind, is Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah,
he's got an iconic role in that.
For some reason, that's the one I think of too, and I don't know why, because I know he's done a ton of other stuff, but I think of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Remember, it's a rat turd. It's a caper. Eat it.
Yeah, exactly.
Divergent was a much better movie than Hunger Games, but Hunger Games came out first. I never read that series. I know people were upset with part 3 and the fact that it ended on a cliffhanger and they didn't do the final part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I did like those movies up until then. I thought, what the actress named Shailene Woodley, if they ever did a live action version of Appleseed, I thought she would have been a shoo-in for doing a new. That's an anime character, bad character. But anyway, I'm babbling. Sutherland brought a certain magic to the role of Mr. Bennett in Pride and Prejudice. Okay, we'll have to check out that version. I don't know, is that the screen version or was it a TV series version? I think BBC did it, maybe.
I have no idea.
But he'll be missed. But like I said, I assume at some point you might be doing a Donald Sutherland movie, either on Big Al or maybe on your channel or something, right?
Very possibly, yeah.
But someone in the chat wanted to know what movies you're having tomorrow night, if you want to tell them real quick.
So tomorrow night I'm doing a Bruce Willis double feature. I will be doing the Last Boy Scout, which I know someone else in our circle did very recently, but I didn't get a chance to see it. I want to see it. And something that a lot of you guys might not have had a chance to see and really need to. The Return of Bruno, a mockumentary done by HBO back in the 80s that it's not very long, but it's incredibly funny. It's incredibly interesting and very hard to find on physical media. It's only ever been released on VHS, so this is a VHS transfer that I will be playing on Monday.
Cool. So rest in peace, Donald Sutherland. And next up is... Do you like that?
Yeah, I hated those clam cases. I really did.
They were terrible. I had one...
Oversized, took up way too much room. They were made of this thin... I think it was blow-molded plastic.
Yeah.
They were very, very... They would get brittle and break. I hated them.
You know what's weird? A lot of the DC animated movies of the time were also releasing cases. Like Batman: Mask of the Phantasm came out one of those oversized cases, and so did I think like the pilot for Superman the animated series. They released that on VHS, and it came in one of those oversized cases. I remember you bought them because that's the only way you get the movie. But
yeah.
But the reason I have this in the background is because there's news about not these Disney tapes, but a different Disney tapes.
The Disney tapes. Yes, I see. That's very clever. I see what you did there. And those clam cases were all white clam cases, if that's any connection.
I think, but actually I think Batman Mask of the Phantasm was black. Oh, I get what you're going at. Okay, never mind. The Disney ones were white. That's fine. Okay.
Yes.
Flies into this. An undercover video captured by O'Keefe Media Group shows a senior vice president at the Walt Disney Company saying that he was told by coworkers in the Human Resources Department that the corporation discriminates against white men. Michael Giordano, a senior vice president and team lead at the Walt Disney Company, said the corporation discriminates against white men on account of their race and sex in O'Keefe's video. The report comes as the company has embraced far-left policies on gender and race, going so far as to embed them in their movies and television shows. This is a quote from him. I have friends in HR and I have friends in other divisions, and they're like, look, nobody else is going to tell you this, Mike. But they're not considering any white males for the job, Giordano divulged to an undercover journalist with O'Keefe Media Group. He also went on to say that being a white male limits his upward mobility within the company. As far as Disney is concerned, I'm a white male, and that's not who they're looking to promote at the moment, he said. Giordano went on to allege that one biracial person was passed over for a promotion because he didn't look African American. We wanted to hire somebody in the department who was half black, but didn't appear half black. And there was a creative executive who was like, we're not that's not what's wanted, he claimed. They wanted someone in the meetings who would appear a certain way, and he wasn't going to bring that to the meeting. In the video, Giordano alleges that Disney attempts to prevent lawsuits by using euphemistic terminology. The company allegedly uses code words and buzzwords that are used to explain what they're looking for. So it's not like a legally actionable thing, the senior vice president explained. He did, however, say that Disney's practices would likely eventually lead to a lawsuit. O'Keefe reported that Disney also awards bonuses to executives based on whether or not they recruited enough employees from non-white backgrounds. The allegations against Disney come as a wide array of companies have been caught discriminating against white and often Asian job applicants. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey announced a lawsuit on Thursday against tech giant International Business Machines, remember that, IBM, over a policy of financially penalizing executives who do not recruit enough people from underrepresented groups, accusing the company of discriminating against whites, Asians, and men. One Daily Wire investigator revealed that NASCAR hosts 2 different internships that explicitly listed certain racial backgrounds as program requirements, only admitting white people. A law professor told the Daily Wire that the program requirements were blatantly illegal. So this is obviously a Daily Wire article. They're talking about other stuff they discovered. And Bayer Pharmaceuticals, U.S. Bank, Best Buy, Liberty Mutual, all participant training programs from McKinsey & Company that barred white people based on their race. So let's get to the next article in this, if you don't mind, because it continues. You want to go and post that, because then we'll have our own.
Because this is directly related. Yeah.
It's directly related. So it's like a part 1 and a part 2. This is, of course, making the rounds over at various channels, including Midnight's Edge. And they had some good stuff to say about it over there as well. I think deleted scenes. He had a rather furious video the other night, and that was directed at Disney. I wonder if not in part due to this. So this is another article. Disney not hiring white males. Explosive video business VP Michael Giordano prompts business calls. I'm trying not to repeat the same stuff I just said. In the video, Giordano can be seen speaking to an undercover reporter, and this is what he said. Certainly, there have been times when, there's no way we're hiding a white helmet, he says in the video. It's kind of unspoken. There are times when it's spoken. In the conversation, the undercover reporter asks how the statement, "There's no way we're hiding a white helmet," would be communicated. Giordano replies that the communication with the agents would be handled very carefully. But as far as Disney is concerned, I'm a white male. That's not who we're looking for promoting, he continues. As a white guy, even Michael has his own doubts about the possibility for advancement of self in Disney. In fact, Michael actually got the experience Disney's discrimination against white males firsthand. I've been in the company 11 years now, so I have friends in HR and I have friends in other divisions, and they're like, look, nobody else is going to tell you this, Mike, but they're not considering any white males for the job. And this is somebody that they like. Giordano purportedly says Disney uses code words and buzzwords to justify discriminatory practices. It is suggested that there are acceptable terms to explain their criteria, such as saying they are, quote-unquote, not looking at the usual suspects for this job, which is not legally actionable and not widely understood. Okay. I'm glad that the Daily Wire article also brought up other companies, because I know Disney is not the only one doing this. Seems like Disney are one of the first to blatantly be caught on camera having this admitted to.
I read somewhere that, because this segment that was released was actually 2 different dates with 2 different girls that were working
That
for...
he was on a date with. Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay.
And they were working for O'Keefe Media Group. And I guess on the second one, towards the end of the date, James O'Keefe actually walked by, made eye contact with the guy, and winked at him. So if he recognized who James O'Keefe was, he was probably already messing himself.
If he knew who he was. I don't know if
Exactly.
he did. Apparently, I don't know if this guy bothered warning Disney about this.
Yeah. Well, even if they had some kind of warning, this one hit hard, you know?
This does not surprise me. I've had my suspicions that this was going on, but I never voiced them, at least on this channel, because I need proof. You cannot go, especially when you're of a certain demographic, start claiming discrimination, because you'll be laughed at or scourged. You have to have proof. We have the proof now, apparently, with this. I don't know if this is a wake-up call. I don't know what's going to happen to this. I think that there may be lawsuits coming. The one I found particularly abrasive was the gentleman who apparently met their criteria but still didn't have the proper look. What about his ability to do the job well?
Yeah.
What is that? Does that matter for anything?
Right.
It's.
And I would have to say the answer to that question for Disney is obviously not.
So, Geek Flag. Here in the United States, we have a law that states you cannot discriminate in your hiring based on race, gender, sexual orientation, religious, or political affiliation.
Yep.
And people usually think that it's about, maybe a white employer discriminating against someone from another minority. But no, that goes both ways. It goes for everybody.
Yeah, that's why there's...
based on their race should be discriminated against. That's the idea.
That's why we have that was the formation of the EEOC in this country. So, yeah, and a lot of companies have already been sued. And in fact, since this whole DEI thing started, legal counsel has been saying for a long time, this is going to result in a lot of lawsuits. And what you really should be looking at is not only this, but I predicted this back in 2019, 2020. There's also HIPAA laws that companies are getting sued under now for certain bodily autonomy reasons that I don't even know if we can talk about on this channel to this date, but those lawsuits are coming through 100% in favor of the existing laws, which say you can't discriminate against people if they choose not to have a particular medical procedure. And yeah, you can't discriminate against people because of the color of their skin, and companies are losing a lot of money over this. So the whole argument always was, why are they doing this? Well, they're doing it because there's been this huge DEI push, and certain financial backers will have been grading their credits based on, let's call it what it is, their social credits, right? You get money from BlackRock, you get money from Vanguard if you have this percentage of people that are gay, this percentage of people that are whatever. And
can BlackRock be targeted as part of this?
Well, that's interesting because you have to. That's one where you have to.
They could say it
right?
wasn't our decision to make. We can put our money where we want to put it.
It would have to start coming from the companies that are being sued and losing all this money, turning around and then suing, and that could happen. I'm not saying it won't. I'm just saying, we live in interesting times, people. Let's put it that way.
Sounds like colleges.
Colleges are getting sued too because they're taking money from the government, and it's already SCOTUS has already slapped down the federal government for DEI practices, and that meant universities as well.
There's one guy talking right now. I think he actually comes from the left, but he's actually starting to address some of the problems with young men, realizing, this is a problem, and it's not, we have to address this. But he was making an argument that the colleges shouldn't be discriminating against anybody. Just let more people in. You can build more campuses, hire more teachers. Stop making it be about exclusivity, which I thought he had an interesting point.
Exactly.
You don't have to discriminate someone if they're white or black or Asian. Just let everybody in who qualifies, and then you can figure it out.
If this season you have a full campus, you cut it off, and then you start expanding your campus. Yes. And look, even before you start expanding the campus, there's lots of other options. There's hiring more teachers, having more rotation of classes, more night classes, more summer classes. That's how business works, and colleges kind of are supposed to operate like a business, and that therein lies part of the problem as well. So.
Let's go back to the days of N64, SNES, and VHS. Well, this is why we do the good old days at the beginning of each street, because we get articles like this to talk about.
Right.
So I try to start off with something that we can look back on. And if there's positive stuff in the news, I like to do those articles more. It's just that these days it's...
And in all honesty, there's some more positive stuff coming up.
We have some good stuff tonight. It's not all bad. This is the worst one, I think. But this is fairly close to awful.
And you should also look at this as a little bit of a white pill, right? This is not really news. This is stuff we've all known. All we're seeing is the disinfecting light of day being shined on it. And as more and more people become aware of it, that's how you push back against it. So see this as good news.
I already knew this from a college recruit that visited my school in 2018. He outright said this college is artificially taking less white men. It really made my woke teacher uncomfortable. Wow. Military actually got rid of affirmative action figure drawing, which says.
Well, because they had no choice. They got slapped down by SCOTUS on that.
Except for military, except for military academies, I need to say more. Okay, affirmative manager, he's gone. Except military academies, need I say more? Well, they want people of color bad.
There's also something to be said for having a merit restriction. You can still do that. You can say you have to meet these expectations, especially in military.
I think Andrew Keene, though, brought a point, and like I said, I don't agree with this guy and everything. Like I said, he does come from the left, but he did make a point that when he got into his master's program, he had like a 2-point-something grade average, like a 2.4. He says, that's not good, but someone was willing to take a chance on me, and here I am today. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's... BlackRock and Vanguard... Go ahead.
But what is taking a chance on somebody? It literally is. It's not a huge chance, right? It's like, okay, I'll give you a job. If you don't live up to it, you're out, right? And then we're no worse off than we were before. But the upside is you might turn out to be great. So yeah, we'll give you a chance. Remember that it's equal employment opportunity, right? An equal employment opportunity means everyone gets the same opportunity to prove themselves. Yeah. It's not an equal employment guarantee.
Yes.
See, that's where the merit comes in.
Everyone gets a fair shake. That's the point. Unfortunately, we have had things in the past known as cronyism, like, oh, this person went to this special school I went to.
Yep.
And we're all Harvard boys, and we'll hire you maybe over someone who's more qualified.
Which is also why, to this day, people, look down their nose at anything that stinks of nepotism. Whether it's in politics or Hollywood or where it is.
BlackRock and Vanguard will be sucked into these lawsuits once they establish a pattern that leads straight back to those companies. At Harvard, legacy students make up a huge percentage of students. Look at that. Shine a bright light and watch the cockroaches scurry for cover. I'm thinking, where is Bob Iger right now? I want to.
He hasn't been talking a lot, has he?
Yeah, that's why kids should go to their local college instead of big university. I went to a local community college, got my 2 years, then finished up at a university. You can do that. Even if you don't get accepted, there are ways to climb up. And there are also other fields besides college for you to get into. Let's be honest, a lot of the trades.
I'm going to say this too. I think that the prestige of certain universities is going away. I think that's meaning less and less all the time. And honestly, the value of a college education is being diminished too. More and more companies are caring less and less about degrees. They're more concerned about, well, at least those that care about merit are caring less and less about degrees. They're caring more and more about experience.
What can you do?
Yeah.
Which is probably why you need to have more universities doing a lot of more hands-on stuff too. But
and there's also, going back to, and unfortunately, high schools are falling down in this too. It used to be that you had an opportunity. You either went to the college prep or you went to what do you call it? A vocational, right? You'd learn shop. You'd learn, home ec, you'd learn skills, right?
Yes.
So that you could, and in your senior year, you could then do a half day at school and do a half day at a job. You know? That's what they used to do. And they'd prepare you for the workforce. We need to get back to that. But no, unfortunately, our public schools have become indoctrination camps, not education camps.
I have heard, I think there's some video going online, I'm sure this doesn't apply to anyone in the chat, or if it does, I'm not judging you, but like a lot of Zoomers don't have a lot of computer skills that like Gen X and millennials took for granted, like knowing how to work Excel spreadsheets and other things. And I'm thinking, but wait a minute, what were they teaching them in grammar school? I mean, I would figure at that point you get computers early on.
They were teaching them it's okay to think you're the other gender, and don't tell your parents, and we'll help you,
but knowing how to use a computer and how to use programs, I would figure that was covered. Because I remember when I was out of high school, I didn't have a ton of computer classes, but I went to community college. It was a requirement to take a couple of entry-level computer classes. That helped me get used to using a mouse. Taught me how to surf the web, use Microsoft Word. These were very useful classes, and I get that maybe those aren't being used in colleges now. But I would think that maybe at least in the elementary school, I figured they're just getting the kids early and teaching them how to use this stuff when they're younger. But apparently that's not the case. So
no, they're teaching them about what President Clinton did in the White House with an intern.
Yeah,
and how to do that. I'm kind of not kidding here, folks. That's the sad thing.
I've heard people say that the affirmative action the color should be green. That's what it was saying. It should be about income level, sure. But, I mean, it's the only way to save humanity and early childhood education publication in the USA is pretty horrid. It's gotten worse. It used to be like back in the day, excellent. Like it was, I'm not gonna say it was quite college level, but it was almost.
Well, we literally turned over. We turned over our education to the teachers' unions, and let's face it, when you turn something over to a union, you're turning it over to the socialists.
Especially when you can't get fired, right? Oh, exactly. What is a grammar school? That's an old-fashioned term. I should say elementary school.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's an excellent point, Samuel, because grammar school was literally the schools where you learn things like grammar.
It's probably an antiquated term at this point.
Probably.
Yeah, so elementary school. Basically grades 1 through 6 or 1 through 5. Depending on where or K through 5 or K through 6.
Yeah, it depends on how the schools were orchestrated. It could be 1 through 8, but usually they consider grades 6 through 8 to be, what do they call it?
No.
Intermediary school now or something like that?
Mistake. I'm sorry. I think it's better just to do 7 and 8 as middle school, because frankly, middle schools already have a horrid enough, I already have a horrid enough reputation. But instead of a 6th grader being at the top of the chain in elementary school, and basically, I think all the BS doesn't happen yet in 6th grade. It happens in middle school. So you don't want to send those kids in and getting picked on 8th graders. Yeah. I mean, it would be, 7th grade's bad enough, but having 6th, I think that's a mistake. But
probably the easier way to say it would be grade school, high school, and then college and university.
There we go. As the power of the internet has gotten more powerful, schools have gotten weaker. There's a universal knowledge at our disposal, yet the general curriculum does not take advantages. I am going to say one thing that I've noticed about the internet lately, and I'm not telling anyone to do this. I would never. But let's say you're looking for a copy of a short story, like, say, The Tin Star, and someone might have it online, and maybe you can't go to the trouble of digging it out or finding a copy. Maybe you could just hook your computer up to a printer and print out a hard copy.
There you go. If you have to read it as a hard copy, yeah.
Not that I would ever tell anyone to do that.
The other thing is, with all of these online universities, but like you see it on some of your favorite YouTube channels that are advertising different educational things and whatnot. These are things where if you want to learn a skill, if you want to learn how to edit videos, if you want to learn how to make YouTube videos, if you want to learn physics and science and math and a new language, and you're not interested in a college degree, you just want to learn it for the knowledge, go do that. You don't need a college degree to put on your resume. Look, I am fluent in French, Spanish, ancient Latin, whatever, you know? Yeah, it's not something I picked up at school, but it's a skill that I have, you know?
And your public library might have a language program online that you can get.
There you go.
Anyway,
some of this stuff is free to you. Yeah. All you need to do is put in the effort. Yeah.
But closest thing to learning Excel for me was a month learning Google Sheets for my CT class in junior high. I don't remember what I learned there. Yeah, see, they don't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. A lot of companies are using these computer programs, Photoshop. I mean, these things, I don't know why they don't teach these things, or at least allow you the elective of taking it in a high school class.
We've gotten kind of general here talking about the DEI in education and merit and stuff, but let's bring it back to Disney, because not only are the Disney tapes coming, but
sorry, that was the other picture I was going to show.
Oh yeah, there you go.
But there we go. Here we go. Lawsuits, and this is at the.
Yeah, this is one we. If we had thought about it, we could have predicted this about a year and a half, 2 years ago, when it was announced that a lot of the offices were being moved from California to Florida.
Remember this. I remember this was when Chapek was running things, and this was causing the big stink. I remember there were theories that this was the reason they were putting up the thing about the whole quote-unquote, don't say gay law in Florida, all the outrage, that this was all about them just not wanting to move to Florida. They wanted to stay in California. But apparently, no, they were going to move everything to Florida, and some Disney employees must have moved because they said that's where the jobs are going. There's going to be a whole new complex built in Orlando. And
it looks like Disney just shafted them
because they got rid of Chapek and Iger took over, and then this was probably scrapped. I mean, I never did a follow-up on this, but I guess we're doing the follow-up now.
Yeah.
2 employees are suing the Walt Disney Company, saying the company moved their jobs from California to Florida, only for Disney to cancel the project and move them back, hurting them financially and emotionally. They're proposing a class action, alleging that there are many others in a similar situation. I'm going to explain. Moving from California to Florida had to have been a nightmare, because if you have to get a house or an apartment, also the move itself, that's directly across the country. Plus the housing prices in both states are outrageous. You got to sell your house, and you got to try and find one in Florida for a similar price, right?
Yep.
It's a nightmare. And then, anyway, in 2021, then Disney owned Bob Chapek announced a move of 2,000 positions from California to Florida. But in May 2023, after CEO Bob Iger returned, the company canceled the $1 billion Lake Nona office complex amid a legal and political battle with Republican Governor Ron DeSantis that has since been settled. The plaintiffs, Maria de la Cruz and George Fong, both work for Disney's product design division. De la Cruz is vice president of product design, and Fong is a creative director, according to the complaint filed by Lo Ripamonte, LLP, on Tuesday. The lawsuit, which seeks an unspecified amount in damages, has not been processed by the Superior Court of Los Angeles. The complaint alleges that Disney misrepresented and concealed its true plans for the Lake Nona project, hurting financially and otherwise at least 250 employees who had made the move from California to Florida. The complaint states employees were informed about the project to relocate 2,000 roles to Florida in July of 2021, and Disney made it clear that the employees who declined relocation would lose their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
The complaint described how De La Cruz and Fong sold their homes in Southern California, purchased homes in Central Florida. For Fong, that meant selling the childhood home that he inherited from his family. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's a burn. After the Lake Nona office project was canceled, De La Cruz emailed Human Resources about the future for those who might choose to stay in Florida, writing, "After all of this, will there be any security in our positions? My fear would be that we decide to stay in Florida only to be laid off in the next year or so. I don't want to be punished for being put in a situation my company put me in, the complaints say.
Yeah.
The complaint says Dela Cruz and Fong decided to move back to California to keep their jobs, but housing prices in the Lake Nona vicinity had dropped significantly after Disney's announcement. So he couldn't sell the house for what he bought it for in Lake Nona. Fong said that he had trouble selling his Florida home, and when he managed to move back to California, mortgage rates and home prices had climbed so rapidly that he was only able to afford a smaller home than he previously had. Ms. Dela Cruz and Mr. Fong and many others dutifully moved to Florida because they love their jobs, they love the people they work with, and they love Disney, attorney Jason Lahr said. Okay, I'm not going to be cruel. I was going to say that was their mistake, loving Disney, but anyway.
Well, yeah, I get that, but
in defense, haven't we all loved Disney at one point?
True, exactly.
So,
and there's a lot of people that are still loving Disney, not realizing that the Disney that they love no longer exists.
It doesn't. Yeah. Let's face facts. We talked about the Sherman Brothers last week.
Right.
They would be hired now.
True.
They wouldn't be hired. They walked in now. We're going to write great songs for me. No, Disney has not replied to a request for comment. The company developing the land in Lake Nona has confirmed with CNN that Disney still owns the 60 acres it had purchased for the new corporate campus. Disney has not said what will happen to this property. I don't know, man. You're forcing your employees to move and then you cancel the operation.
Yeah.
They need to have a guarantee of employment. That's ridiculous.
And here's the thing. Disney has a history of this kind of treatment. Remember, there was an executive that was it a year and a half ago, who gave up a position because she had a verbal contract and an email from Disney, and then they ghosted her, and she's like, no, we had an agreement, and I made plans based on that agreement.
Yeah. Mark, I don't know if there was a time, this goes back when experience was valued highly. I have 40 plus years in those, no degree, but common sense experience. Today, they hire anyone. I heard there was a horrible thing happening over at Best Buy where they were getting rid of seasoned employees that knew the job well.
Yeah.
And hiring no names because they didn't, they could pay them less. That was basically why.
Well, companies have done that forever. The problem is they learn a valuable lesson when the service level starts to suffer because of it, and then they end up losing business over it.
Shop at Walmart sometimes. Almost all of us support quote unquote evil China with their wallets. It is what it is. Disney is not an outlier. The thing is, though, can we outright boycott Disney? Is that possible? Maybe not. Can we try to give as little money to them as possible? I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all we can do, at least until they try to do some kind of recompense. I mean, they've been caught with their pants down. Well, not literally.
Well, what does Disney own that you are giving them money for? What are they selling that you need? See, this is
nothing new. I can tell you that. Maybe if you want older, you buy them. But
there's that, and there is what is, and this is something I say when and Netter does this too. Whenever negotiating with, like, for example, the cable company or whatever. You forget you are selling me a product I do not need. This is a luxury, and I can and will walk away from you, especially if there's another option.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that a long time ago, men who had a dream made it come true with the help of his brother, lived long enough to see his park shows, cartoons, and anime masterpieces. I'm sure he'll continue that. No, I mean, think about, here we go, part 2. After his death, his brother had to keep the dream going, and over time, thanks to you bad CEOs, to destroy his legacy. Yeah, basically. Yeah.
There is an absolute guarantee that within 3 generations, anything you built up, unless it's kept within a family that cares about the legacy, it will go to shit. Disney went from Walt to Roy to a corporation and fell apart. The Tolkien estate went from J.R.R. Tolkien to his son Chris, and then when Chris died, corporate split the baby and it's gone. Nobody cares anymore.
Yeah.
And this is what happens to all of these things. Sherry Redstone, you know? I mean, yeah, the kids, unless they are in like Flynn and care and pay attention and learned from the previous generation, they'll get lazy, they'll let it go. It's all about the money, and whatever was built up will go to shit.
They had good box office this week, though.
Oh, yeah, they did. The past couple of weeks, actually. Let me get this out here. We got actually a couple articles about this. And Hale County Cleary, welcome.
Going to go through the first one real quick. Just say that it did very well. You know, we don't lie on this channel. Maybe we wanted to do badly, but
no, actually, this is one of those ones that see. Even this, I see this as a win too, because it's sending a loud message that they cannot deny. The one thing they did well, what is it not? It's not woke.
That's true. Culture Casino was on one of the channels. He said it wasn't woke. It wasn't pushing anything. But where to begin in describing the emotions that Hollywood and theater owners, not to mention Pixar and its parent company Disney, are likely feeling over the stunning start of Inside Out to the box office. In a joyous comeback for Pixar, the tentpole opened to a massive $155 million domestically over Father's Day weekend, well ahead of an expected $90 million to secure the second biggest animated launch of all time for the 3-day weekend, not adjusted for inflation. It also did historic business overseas, where it opened to a record $140 million for a global total of $295 million, the biggest opening of all time for an animated film in like-for-like markets when accounting for exchange rates. Fellow Pixar sequel, Incredibles 2, is the crown holder for the top animated domestic opening, $182.7 million. That was previously followed by Illumination Universal with the Super Mario Brothers movie, $146.4 million, which Inside Out 2 has supplanted. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'll go to the next article, too, so we're just going to do both as one. I was kind of curious, though, who went to see it. Why is this a hit when all these other Pixar movies have not? How Inside Out broke Hollywood's box office curse. And embarrassed? Hardly. Sad and fearful? No way. Joyous? Absolutely. That was the vibe on the morning of June 17th when Disney Entertainment's co-chairman Alan Bergman cracked open the champagne to toast those who had worked on the making and marketing of Inside Out 2, which is this year's first box office blockbuster. It's been a while since we did this, says one person attending the celebration on Disney's Burbank lot in reference to rough times for the once invincible Pixar, where Pete Docter also arranged a toast. For its part, Pixar delivered a film that has won over both critics and audiences in continuing the story of Riley, who is now 13 and must contend with a new crew of emotions invading her head, in addition to the old standbys led by Joy, played by Amy Poehler. And Disney orchestrated a marketing campaign that stayed on message and resonated with moviegoers around the globe. A lot of people have ingrained knowledge of the 2015 Inside Out. So for us, it was much more about finding the thing that was new and relatable to as many people as possible across as many demographics as possible. Everybody has turned 13 or will, and you're going to be flooded with a whole new set of emotions, says recently promoted Walt Disney's exec VP of marketing, Martha Morrison, who ran the campaign. The movie opened to historical $154.2 million domestically. But Inside Out couldn't have come a moment too soon. Year-to-date revenue was lagging on more than 25% last year. Remember, they were predicting after Furiosa, this was the end of the summer, right?
Right.
They were all going to be this way. I wasn't ready to cash in Hollywood chips just yet, but Sony's Bad Boys 2 did very well. And over the June 7th to 9th weekend, Bad Boys 2 made the rebound with better than expected $56.5 million domestic opening. It fell a scant 40%, even with Inside Out 2 sucking up most of the oxygen. The Barbenheimer effect at work. Historically, white moviegoers made up 40 to 50% of Pixar's movie audience domestically. In the case of Inside Out 2, there was a notable shift. Latinos made up 38%, followed by Caucasians 34%, Black moviegoers 13%, Asian moviegoers 10%, and Native American other 5%, according to one Post-Track's real-time surveys over the weekend. Sources say Inside Out 2 never would have done the kind of numbers it did without a level of diversity. At the same time, the movie is marketed around Riley and the emotions and not a particular character's ethnicity, though diverse race and ethnicities are now part of Riley's world. Since returning as Disney CEO and getting caught up in showdown with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, including over a same-sex kiss in Lightyear, Bob Iger said his movies don't work if they're all about messaging versus entertaining, and that some Disney titles had indeed strayed into the messaging arena at their own peril, though he never named names. Look, we're trying to reach a very, very diverse audience, Iger said last fall, and we just have to be more sensitive to the interests of a broad audience. Latinos over-index for movie-going and especially family picks. Elemental, for example, rebounded in a major way thanks to strong turnout among Latinos, a detail not lost on Disney when setting out to sell Inside Out Elementals, ultimately earning $496.4 million worldwide. So that one did well over time.
Here is the counterintuitive element of trying to be diverse. When you try to be diverse, when it's artificial, people pick up on that and you actually end up pushing people away. When you don't try to be diverse, you just let it be, you actually end up appealing to the widest audience, right? We have been saying this about so many things, and we see it with Star Wars, we see it with Star Trek, we see every imaginable group coming out and saying, look, I am not specifically looking to see the lead person look exactly like me. I just want to enjoy it. Quit harping on it. And I think this is a great example. You still have the main character of this being a white girl. And yet here they are talking about all the demographics that, came out to see it. Shock and surprise.
Because you can all identify with being a 13-year-old and dealing with emotions. I think that's how it was.
Exactly. Nobody is looking at her skin color. They are looking at the story and identifying with her character. Right? Who was that who said something about not judging people by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character? That seems to sounds familiar to me. That kind of resonated with me. Just saying. But, and one other thing before we go on, this isn't actually one of our slides or, one that I had shared with you, but I just figured if you wanted to take a look at Box Office Mojo yourself, we're really going into the second week here, and domestic at this point is now over $355 million, with an international gross of $369 million for a total worldwide of $724 million.
Yeah.
If we've gotten across get woke, go broke, this is, I don't know, you're going to have to come up with some clever rhyme for if you don't go woke, you don't go broke.
Well, yeah. I'm trying to think what other movies Disney has had,
None.
Well, I don't know why Soul failed unless Soul was a direct-to Disney, because I thought.
Well, and there again, you can't look at these things in a vacuum. You're dealing with a situation where you have so much forced diversity, and a lot of commenters are talking about it. Well, it wasn't woke. It wasn't woke. Everyone's looking for woke. Just because it's got a black lead or just because it's got a female lead doesn't make it woke. That is true, but everyone has become so hypersensitive to it, and that is Hollywood's fault, that now there's just an assumption. Oh, if I go see this with a black lead, if I go see this with a female lead, I'm going to get a message. I'm just going to stay away. Wow. Therein lies the problem. And I'm guessing not a lot of people said that about Inside Out 2 because it's the same characters from the first time. They liked it the first time. They're going to go see it again. And then after the opening week, they were like, oh, I didn't hear anyone say that, it turned out that the little girl's turning into a lesbian. I'm going to take my kids to see it. And it did really great the second week, too.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, though.
It's going to be really hard now for Disney to... And Disney's going to try to spin this. Well, look at how successful... And every earnings call and everything. Inside Out 2 did so great. Blah, 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 blah. I'm just waiting for the investor who's going to say, wasn't it you who said that you were going to get away from the messaging, and then we continue to get messaging that lost you business? If this isn't proof that getting away from the messaging is going to be profitable, and you're holding it up as your success, why do we still see you doing messaging in your there's going to be a big loss of confidence in Bob Iger. I really see that.
But he's the one that but I don't know. We'll see.
This actually hurts him as much as it helps him. Yes, the profits look good, but the overall takeaway that investors see from this is, oh, really? Now you need to live up to what you said. Yeah. You said you were going to quiet the noise. And here's the proof that if you do quiet the noise, the money will come.
Yeah.
If you don't quiet the noise, we're going to vote for the other guy next time.
Yeah.
So, There you go. That's just my little soapbox here. Let's go on to something a little bit more interesting.
Well,
and a little bit less,
Well, Disney has been driving us crazy for years. But like I said, I think someone had mentioned Encanto, which...
You guys wanted to get back to Nintendo? Let's get back to Nintendo.
I know Paulie liked that movie. I hadn't seen it myself. Nintendo Direct...
Encanto was good, yeah.
Yes, okay. All right. Let's get into Nintendo. So, did you post the article yet? Okay, Nintendo Direct June.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry, give me one moment. Give me a second. I had more to do with this article. So, the big Nintendo Direct was this week. The Legend of... Okay, so there was, of course, some major announcements. I'm going to tell you what I believe the big 4 or 5 were, in my opinion. Okay. So we have the Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom was announced. And if we go into this article, one of the biggest surprises of the Nintendo Direct was announced that The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, a brand new game in the Legacy franchise, will be released on Switch on September 26, 2024. Furthermore, this new game will feature Princess Zelda as the main character, as Link and other people from Hyrule have gone missing after strange rifts have started appearing. Zelda will have to work with a mysterious fairy named Tri to use the power of the Tri-Rod to create echoes, imitations of things found in the environment. This means you can make bridges out of old beds, use water blocks to reach new heights, and more. Additionally, a limited edition gold-crested Nintendo Switch Lite with the Hylian crest will arrive alongside with the game. So, if you want to buy a Zelda-themed Nintendo Switch Lite, you can, with the Zelda theme. I thought this was an interesting announcement. Frankly, the fact that you can play as Princess Zelda, I don't think is a big deal. I think people were predicting that this might happen a while ago. I'm a little upset, though, that they didn't call this game The Legend of Zelda: The Missing Link, which I thought would have been a proper title for this. Anyway, so here we go. Looks like it's going to be done in the style of Link's Awakening. So I don't know if there are any Zelda fans in here. Another Zelda game that I'm probably not going to play because I don't have a Nintendo console. Well, I don't know what to tell you. They are exclusive. All right.
Yeah.
All right. But here we go. Metroid Prime Beyond. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. This was a new sequel to the Metroid Prime series announced. Not coming out until 2025, so I was not too pleased about that. So, but it is coming out, and it looks pretty cool. And for those of you fans of Metroid Prime 4, you have something to look forward to in 2025. There's a rumor going around that this may be released on the Switch too, but that has not been confirmed. It might be a dual release. And we have a new Mario game, if that shocks anybody. Let me see here.
Is this actual artwork from the game?
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yes. Mario and Luigi Brothership is jumping to Nintendo Switch on November 7, 2024, with a very unique and colorful art style. This new adventure will send our favorite brothers on an island-hopping adventure on the part ship, part island called Ship-Shape Island, as Mario and Luigi journey across Concordia They will visit rainforest cities and more alongside running into Peach Bowser and other Mushroom Kingdom favorites. So this is a sequel to another Mario RPG series known as Mario and Luigi, where you play as the two brothers, which I think was a response to the fact that Luigi wasn't even present in the original Super Mario RPG. So they started making games that was just about the two of them going on adventures. So it's been a while since we've gotten a sequel to one of these, so it might be cool. So, I mean, this is a good direct and not a great direct, but not bad. I think not a bad showing. Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. This is where Nintendo will get me to buy the same game for the third time around. I was a big fan of Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Wii, but I kind of wish it was, an HD game that I could play properly on a widescreen TV, because if you tried plugging the Wii into an HD TV, it looked like a standard definition console, even if you had the component cables. It just was not an HD console. So, and then they later released it on the Nintendo 3DS, which was great, but it's on a tiny screen. So now we get it full widescreen glory in HD. So there we go. For a moment, I thought we were going to get a Super Mario Brothers animated series. No, I think they should take maybe a different Nintendo character to do a series out of. I know they had talked about doing a what do you call it? A Star Fox series a while back. It was going to be done by the guy Seth Green, who did Robot Chicken, had pitched it to Nintendo, and they were going to do it for Netflix. Like, it was going to be like animated, like Robot Chicken was, but it was going to be a Star Fox series. But then Nintendo at the last minute said no. Something threw them off that didn't want them to do it. I don't know what happened, but I know that was in the works. But yeah, I think this was a good direct. Marvel versus Capcom Fighting Collection, arcade classics. This was kind of the weird unsung hero of the stream. Okay, I'll try to explain this to you. Back in the old days, not so old, but like the late 90s, early 2000s, Capcom, of course, made Street Fighter 2, right?
Right.
But then they started making Marvel fighting games. They started with an X-Men fighting game, then a Marvel superheroes fighting game, then X-Men versus
They felt
Marvel.
very similar. They were the same kind of, I guess these days you'd call it game engine.
Yeah, and eventually you got to where the Marvel characters were fighting the Street Fighter characters. Look, you got Captain America, looks like, versus Chun-Li up there.
Sure.
Or maybe it's Captain America versus Captain Commando. That'd be funny.
Yeah.
But and also in this collection is the Punisher arcade game. The Punisher arcade game, where you get to play as Frank Castle beating up killing people. So, if you want these old school games, they're being released in a collection for both the Switch and the PS4. No Xbox release, unfortunately. They should do a Metroid series, maybe. Marvel Capcom 2 finally gets released for the masses. It's been a while since it's been released. Yeah, it's I'm trying to think though. Any Nintendo fans here excited about the Nintendo Direct? As excited as I was. Does anybody in the chat own a Switch?
The other interesting thing that I'm seeing in Marvel vs. Capcom is I see Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet.
Infinity Stones,
Who is he going up against?
My only it would have to be whatever the Capcom equivalent to Thanos would be. And I don't know. Is there one? I don't know. I know with Marvel vs. Capcom 3, they had Dr. Doom teaming up with Albert Wesker from the Resident Evil series. And that's how that plot was laid
interesting.
Out. So,
okay.
Albert Wesker is the main villain in the Resident Evil series with I don't know what actor played him in the movies, but he did a great job just basically being the video game Wesker in the Resident Evil movies.
Sure.
But no, I mean, this should be fun. For some reason, Xbox fans are getting screwed over by this, but it's coming out on PC and PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch. I might get it on Switch. We'll see. But good little collection here. Good little collection. I think that this will... I don't know. I did have the other Capcom collections. I have the Street Fighter collection and the fighting game collection, which was basically their Darkstalkers collection, which was their horror-themed fighting game. Oh, I'm sure that one of these Marvel versus Capcom fighting games has, I think, Morrigan, who's the succubus from the Darkstalkers games.
Makes sense.
Who's rather nice looking and would probably be problematic now.
Oh yeah, and there will be a scandal if they decide to change her appearance. And
well, they won't do that. I think they'll just leave it alone. Like, I hope they're going to leave, Lollipop.
I'll tell you what. I honestly think that the right play here is to keep things the way they are, and when the game journos come out and get all pissy about it, all it does is boost sales. That's free marketing. Let them.
Jesse Guajardo, I heard about that today, the big news about Resident Evil Remake that are coming this year. If this is to the Resident Evil games with the Tomb Raider trilogy recently released with the Tomb Raider games, I will jump through the roof, or I'll do something. If I can play cleaned up versions of the original 3 Resident Evil games that were out on PlayStation and other systems back in the day, I'll be very happy if Capcom announces that, because there's something about those original Resident Evil games that I'm not picking on the remakes. They were great, but I do like those original Resident Evil games. I'd like to see them get re-released. But I got overall pretty good direct.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Now this one, you're going to have to explain this one to me, because I really didn't understand this at all.
This was an IGN. Reporter showing that things are not going to get better if IGN takes over gaming journalism.
Gotcha.
This is kind of all over the place. This is one I wonder if I just should have thrown out, because this is this is a complicated one. Actually, let me go ahead and mark the time on this as well. This would be 1:44.50. So this was a bit of a mistranslation, and I think they announced the retraction, but I'm not positive. Hold on a second. All right. Games journalists are embarrassing themselves in their zeal to take down any game developer that doesn't submit to their ideology. Okay, the other day, a rumor about games journalists consulting firms like Sweet Baby Inc. joining forces to extort developers, specifically the company behind Black Myth Wukong, made the rounds. Well, there's no hard evidence that it was true. IGN and The Gamer had run pieces decrying developer Game Science's sexism, particular producer Feng Ji. These charges are based on supposed accounts of the Chinese gaming industry in general, Game Science in particular, and translated comments from Feng. This is what I wanted to talk about, these supposedly translated comments. I think Asmongold was talking about this on his stream. But I'm not going to spend too much time on this, because this is a rather complicated thing. But hold on. But I think Rome's was talking about after that mishandled translation debacle on Black Myth Wukong hit piece, IGN needs to issue a retraction apology, because apparently they had translated what the author had said wrong. So here is a line from the translated version. I believe it is: the snake spirit is different from what I imagined, but if I cover the bottom half with my hand, it's still possible to, well, to use the turn of phrase used here, jerk off, which is not what the developer said.
Yeah.
I think it was said, it's not what I expected, but it's not possible to cover the bottom half of the body with your hand. It's not possible. That's what he said.
Yeah.
So,
and that's a big
that's a big difference. I want to expand my circle and hire more people, get licked until I can't get an erection. This was a mistranslation. The phrase is used. Okay, so this was a mistranslation. It's a phrase used in the Chinese language. It's a colloquialism expression used humorously or sarcastically to describe a situation where excessive flattery or sarcasm has an overwhelming or paralyzing effect on someone. The use of such metaphors can be found from informal speech on social media. Some people took this, what the original statement, not this bad translation, meant like, he doesn't want people constantly praising what he's doing and saying what's good. He needs to be giving criticism so he can make a better game. I think that's what he was trying to allude to. And I don't know. It just feels like this is a Chinese developer, because obviously they're getting the games. And okay, so it says the mistranslation even earned IGN's X Post article a community note too. Indie souls like Black Myth Wukong has seen widespread acclaim since the reveal, but the studio behind it, Game Science, has long been plagued with accusations of sexism that reflected wider issues of the Chinese game industry. But I'm sorry if we're basing that on these translations here. These are not correct translations. But yeah, that's just what I wanted to bring up. I don't know. But it looks like a cool game. It looks like it's based on Journey to the West. You know, are familiar with that?
No, I'm not.
It's a famous Chinese piece of literature based on it's a famous piece of Chinese literature that's sort of like, I've heard it compared to like their version of like King Arthur. It's not really like King Arthur, but it's
Sure.
I believe it's about a Buddhist monk trying to transport scrolls to India, from China to India, and he encounters many interesting creatures like a monkey here. And every time he fights these creatures, like he fights a creature called Pigsy, I think in one of the translations called like a pig man, and then he fights a dragon. But every time he fights these things, instead of like killing them or whatever, they just join his quest and go with him. So they transfer the scrolls. So it's not like these are like the straight up villains, okay?
Yeah.
But,
and I'll tell you, the one thing I did take away from all this, those graphics are awesome.
I like the fact that more developers are getting in. We had Korea get into it with. I mean, they've done other games, but their big hit that came out recently for PlayStation, which
I mean, that looks so photorealistic. You know,
this you can't get on Switch. I'll say that.
Yeah,
I love the Switch, but I get why people own next gen consoles and PCs, because you don't get graphics like this on the Switch. But yeah. Okay, I know if he tells me what he is saying simply translate to "don't blow smoke up my ass." Well, okay,
yeah.
Well, I don't know then. Maybe they were correct. I'm kidding. I don't think they were.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, that's not casual conversation, I hope, there. But point is, I think they needed to issue a retraction. I don't know if they did. They might have since this.
This does go back to what I was talking about, translation and transliteration. Right? You know, you've got to not only understand the literal words that you are translating, but the context.
Yeah. But yeah. So, anyway, moving on.
Mm-hmm.
Google kills the media biz. I thought you might find this interesting because of AI.
Agreed.
All right, give me one moment. Sorry, doing these little time stamps. They'll be worth it in the end, though, won't they?
I agree. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, there we go. All right, Google destroys the media business. And, Google destroys the media biz, Friday layoffs, buyouts, and daily beats. Hollywood Reporter, The Sun, Canada Media. All right. So, a lot of layoffs going on, and I guess the blame is going on with AI. Google and AI are doing as predicted, killing off media business. Yesterday, there were a lot of layoffs again. All top people with a lot of experience. Forget print sales. Internet traffic is way down. It started last September when Google employed a drastic change to its algorithm. But now it's even worse. The web traffic, which has dropped like a stone over the last 3 months. Some sites have seen their readership cut in half as Google and other search engines point to artificially created links. That's rather scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, Pence's Group's Hollywood Reporter let go of several staff, including longtime top TV editor Leslie Goldberg and editor-writer Rebecca Sun, who'd been laid off before and rehired. Penske owns The Reporter, Variety, Deadline, Rolling Stone, and Billboard, among others. I'm told these layoffs aren't the end. The Daily Beast has reportedly offered buyouts to 70% of its unionized staff. Non-unionized staff is next as former Hearst editor Joanna Coles and ABC News chief Ben Sherwood take the reins to save the Beast from closing. Yikes. Media news, the Daily Beast buyout results are in, and they're just about gutting the site. 25 or 70% of unionized staffers took the buyouts, including nearly all of the most senior journalists. Meanwhile, non-union editors expect to face a round of firings at the end of the month. So basically, you take the buyout rather than risk getting fired. Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, I guess.
Over at thesun.com, there's buzz of more were sent packing. According to Sem Rush, thesun.com has lost 20 million visitors since February. I'm surprised, considering Yahoo News just told me they're relying on tabloid news. Go figure. In Canada, 35 media people were laid off by the Global News. That's in addition to 11 who already got the axe this year. I do read snarky comments about these layers who think that the media people getting cut is funny or that they deserve it. How stupid can people be? Is there really a desire for a fascist dictator Donald Trump and no free press? Okay, this is Google doing this.
Yep.
Google, who I would think y'all were singing the praises of a while.
They literally, it's confession through projection, right? They are literally doing what they are accusing apparently Donald Trump of doing. And I don't know how Donald Trump has anything to do with this.
He has nothing to do with anything.
Other than they like to demonize him for everything. But it's this idea that
doing this, it's the people you thought were your allies. That's what it's sounding like.
Everybody who is literally expressing themselves through their First Amendment rights are considered fascists by the Google.
Ridiculous. And back to the headline: Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, etc. are the villains, and they're doing this stuff on check. The government also has to intervene for any kind of oversight or regulation. We were warned about AI more than a year ago, and no one took it seriously. So this is interesting that Google, it's sounding like from this, like Google, Microsoft, some of these Silicon Valley types are now starting to turn on the news outlets.
Yeah, they absolutely are. Yeah.
Which I thought was funny
because Google is trying to create a monopoly for themselves. They want to control information, which is exactly why I say it is confession through projection. They literally want to have fascist control over propaganda, and they want to eliminate everyone else's ability to put out an alternative narrative.
Do you know what I noticed a few weeks ago? I don't know if it was on CNN or MSNBC that Nancy Pelosi was on there, and she was complaining about Trump, how he destroyed the economy, or whatever. And then the woman said, "Well, yes, but he, he did get the pandemic." And he says, "Oh, you're going to be defending Trump." I didn't realize that no one would accuse me of that because, of course, this woman's left wing, but she was just trying to say the fact that happened during the last part of his administration. So, I don't. This
is again what you expect in a true. With a true free press, you expect them to do their duty and push back against the administration and say, look, it's not that simple. You're trying to give us pat answers because you want to win the next election, but, we're not stupid and we know what reality is.
I have a question, though. How does this AI thing work? Can the AI program redo an article from the Associated Press and just make it seem like it's something new, like a newly written article on the same subject?
I don't know, but the biggest problem that I have seen with AI, anybody who's played around with, Chat GPT or whatever realizes, and look, we've seen it with law briefs and stuff that people have used AI to write. The AI makes crap up. It is generative AI. Think about the when you're typing into your phone and it guesses what word you might be wanting to say.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing on a bigger scale. It's guessing your whole work based on the little prompt that you give it. But and it will make crap up. It doesn't understand citation or telling the truth.
How am I supposed to trust anything that's done from these AI programs then?
You know what? Samuel makes
the other stuff was written by a human being. I may disagree with them, but it's written by a human being. This is not even... Go ahead.
Samuel makes a great point. He says, careful what you say. Google owns YouTube, which is part of your income, which is exactly why I'm diversifying. Every stream I do goes out on Rumble and X as well.
Yes.
So if anything ever happens to my YouTube channel, look for me on Rumble. Rumble, where I have been monetized from my very first post, where you could go and give me a Rumble rant anytime. I am not going to be beholden to YouTube. I enjoy it. I'll take the money while I can. I'll work with them to the best of my ability. But if they shut me down, I will move on to where I can, actually have free speech.
And there are other avenues. And you can get Rumble on a lot of streaming devices too now.
Yes, you can. Rumble has its flaws, but it is constantly improving. Yes. It's late to the game. You can't expect it to be at the level of YouTube, but it is getting there.
I'm sorry.
And it's scaring the crap out of Google. That is why Google is trying so hard to shut Rumble down.
I have to, this is from the last article though, the Monkey King thing. I saw a miniseries version of that story. It was awful, like an asylum version of Lord of the Rings. Okay, well, I don't know. The closest I can get, I mean, granted this is like a kid's movie, but the, what was it called? The Oh, the movie with the big one with Jackie Chan and Jet Li in it. The Forbidden Kingdom, I think it was called, which
Something like that, yeah.
it wasn't the Journey in the West, but it had Monkey from Journey in the West in it, and Jet Li played him. It was kind of neat. So that's a pretty good movie.
I don't know. When I looked at it, I thought, this Planet of the Apes prequel looks weird.
No, he's a figure in Chinese mythology.
I know.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but how did I forget about Rumble? But anyway, all right.
This one just kind of, I was like, well, it's potentially good news anyway.
Okay, 158.40.
And did you see my and you'll bring up the thumbnail again at the end.
I was
very proud of that.
Yes. And here's the latest update on A24's Crystal Lake. Charlize Theron as Pamela Voorhees. There we go. And that's not an. Oh wait, that's yeah. So let me go ahead and let's do the update. Let me go ahead and read from that article as well. I think I had to find a different article because that linked to something else, but the headline's correct.
Sorry about that.
I don't think it was you. It might have been the site. Maybe they put the wrong headline in the wrong article. But here we go.
Oh, gotcha.
I did find the right article.
Okay.
It's from Bloody Disgusting. A24 and Peacock's planned Friday 13th television series Crystal Lake went up in smoke earlier this year, with showrunner Brian Fuller of Hannibal being fired from the project and leaving the fate of the small screen project unclear. So what really happened? Well, that's another story. But to refresh the memory before we dive in, Peacock had given the project of a straight-to-series order in 2022, with Crystal Lake being described as an expanded prequel to the original Friday the 13th franchise, featuring both Jason Voorhees and his mother, Pamela. According to the Wrap's new report, Charlize Theron was being eyed to play Mrs. Voorhees.
Yeah.
Other new details from the Wrap's report revealed that the episode, written by Kevin Williamson, Scream, was going to take place entirely on a frozen Crystal Lake, with Williamson recently describing the episode as an hour-long chase. Friday the 13th fans have been begging for a winter set Friday installment for many years now, and A24 was set to deliver just that. Additionally, Vincent Natali of Cube and Splice, Kimberly Pierce, Boys Don't Cry, Carrie, were set to direct episodes, with the budget ballooning to around $10 million per episode, with 8 episodes in total planned for the first season. It would have cost A24 roughly $85 million to bring the series to life, with additional seasons being planned by the studio. Now, I'm sorry. I kind of want to know something, though. Why would it cost $85 million to make?
No idea.
The actor prices, maybe, because with the original Friday the 13th probably cost $85,000 to make. I mean, it was just. The Wrap's report notes it's in the grand ambition of Crystal Lake. Each season would be a deconstruction of the first 4 Paramount movies. How do you deconstruct? Is little Jason Voorhees going to cry? He said, "I never learned to read." I'm sorry. I don't know why I threw that in. That was Garth from Wayne's World. Remember, he said, "I never learned to read," and the Oscar moment was being signaled underneath that scene. Okay. The series would incorporate lore from several sequels, but remix that material in a similar way to Fuller's Hannibal. Vincent and Natalie had recently tweeted, "I've read the first 2 episodes. Brian Fuller's Crystal Lake was well on its way to becoming another Hannibal-level reinvention, and was simultaneously beautiful, sad, poetic, funny, horrifying, and more in its passing." So what happened? According to the Wrap, Brian Fuller was fired from Crystal Lake. Just 3 months per production was set to begin this summer. The Wrap notes Crystal Lake was plagued by inexperienced production executives making questionable decisions, problems of the show's writing staff, and conflicts between showrunners and executives.
Really? Brian Fuller got fired for... from a project to reinvent something the way he did with Hannibal. That's just shocking to me. I can't believe that.
You didn't like Hannibal?
I didn't watch it. I had no interest.
It did some things right. Mads Mikkelsen was great on the show as Hannibal Lecter because he was doing a different take than the Anthony Hopkins character. Mm-hmm. But he gave it his own thing. But yeah, it was probably better than that Clarice series.
I wonder if these people are starting to understand it is not a good idea to, in quote, reinvent something. If you have the rights, if you have the license to something that fans already exist for, you've got to first please the fans. If you're going after a new audience, you will fail.
Part of the problem with Hannibal, and also I think the Clarice series, was that this was splitting the baby in half, where one company had Silence of the Lambs, another company had Hannibal Lecter and Red Dragon.
Well, and let's be fair, we know that there have been rights issues related to Friday the 13th, too, that have definitely threatened to do the same thing. You know, whether or not Jason wears a mask or not, or, you know, the existence of Pamela Voorhees, you know, that only applies to certain movies.
Of Pamela Voorhees. She's in the first movie.
Yes, and then subsequent movies, they don't do that. There are elements of Friday the and Tom Connors has talked about this. He knows better than I do. But it's just like with Superman. Superboy and Superman are separate rights-related things based on court cases and stuff, so they try to eliminate, you know, a Superboy that has a costume and a history and blah, 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 and this and that, and, you know, sometimes this S symbol, it belongs to, you know, this, and it's all a big frickin' mess. And the same thing has happened to Jason over the years. Whether or not he's got a potato sack over his head, or he's got a hockey mask over his head, whether or not his mother is mentioned or not, all kinds of stuff.
I think Charlize Theron, though, would work in this role, don't you?
And you know, I normally, and see, I saw somebody in the chat was like, "What?" I don't know, because I had that same reaction.
That one role where she was the killer. Remember, she was a serial killer.
Yes,
like a real life, and they uglied her up for the role, so she could do it. I mean,
yeah, that was called Monster, right? There was, well, look, I mean, they basically did the same thing with Bates Motel, right? This would basically be Bates Motel for Friday the 13th.
Bates Motel ran into the same trouble that Hannibal ran into. I was on board until we got into the recreation of Psycho. I was on board with Hannibal till they did Red Dragon again, and we've already seen Red Dragon done twice.
Yeah.
I didn't need to see it a third time.
Yeah, what you have to do is, and I can't believe I'm actually citing Disney Star Wars for this, you kind of have to do the same thing they did with Rogue One. You take it right up to, you set the stage for the first movie, and that's where you end it.
Yeah. But instead now what they like to redo it, and the trouble is, if you redo it worse, then you're not going to like it.
I'm getting concerned, same topic, I'm concerned about where the Planet of the Apes movies are going. You know, because they are going to eventually get caught up to the Charlton Heston story, and they don't want to do that. They should not be doing that.
It doesn't, I don't know, because I haven't seen the latest one, because I had the idea that they would be, I don't know.
No, everything I've seen about it, they're still in fine territory. They're still in fine prequel territory where they have plenty of room to do with whatever they want, yeah.
But another person owns the movie rights to Jason.
Yeah. Another
person. Are you kidding me?
Yes, thank you, Nate.
This is going to be Pamela Voorhees. She's pregnant. Says, "Guess what? I'm going to name my son." And everybody names every name but Jason. It's a goof on Madam Web. Apparently, it happens in Madam Web where you can't say Peter Parker in Madam Web, even though it's clearly that Aunt May is in it, pregnant with a child, and like, guess what my baby's name's going to be? And it's like no one's saying Peter. It's like, come on.
Yeah, and I would suggest there's two people, there's two YouTube channels, and see, this is one of the things I love about, you know, being an independent streamer. You can shout out all the other channels and not feel like, you know, you're sending someone to the competition. Go check out Midnight's Edge After Dark for Tom Connors, and check out Fanzine for Greg, because both of them talk about the Friday the 13th series, and they know their stuff, and they've done videos talking about these rights issues and the just intricate web of rights related to that.
Every time they will remake the old Planet of the Apes, well, they did with Mark Wahlberg and then Tim Burton version, and I was
nobody liked it, and it got wiped away.
I would have cut it slack except for that stupid twist ending.
Yeah, that ending, they kind of ruined it.
I was actually going to be. It's not as good as the original, but it's not awful, and I thought they were trying to base it more on the book.
I will say
that twist ending.
I will say this, Jesse. I will give the possibility of them possibly remaking the original Planet of the Apes with their new actors, whoever they are at the time. But they've got to be very careful doing it. If they do it, people have got to be able to go and say, yeah, not only is this a remake, but it's good. If they don't stick the landing, that's the end for them. It's a gamble I wouldn't take.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, is there enough meat on Friday 13th for a series?
I don't understand how Crystal Lake could be.
It's a pretty basic story. I mean, it's good for what it is.
I could see a movie.
Yes,
I could see a movie that leads up to.
Yeah, it'd be great if we could do it like a whodunit, like how the original Friday 13th should have been when Mrs. Voorhees shows up 15 minutes before the movie ends, and she's the killer. Spoiler, sorry. Right? Yeah,
it's a 40-year-old franchise. If you don't know, in fact, look, even in what was it? What was that one with Drew Barrymore? The killer, Scream, right? Yeah. Where she's given the trivia question, who was the killer in Friday the 13th? Oh, I know this one. It was Jason. No, it wasn't. It was Pamela Voorhees.
Firestarter.
Oh. No. I was talking. Yeah, see? Not the one where she was the star, the one where she gets killed early on, which was also kind of brilliant. You bring in a big-name star, and she's the first person you see, and you think she's going to be the main character. Nope! She's dead in the first 15 minutes. Again, another spoiler.
Yeah, it's just, yes, but the thing is, we're usually in a whodunit, when you have a various cast of characters, you're not seeing who the killer is, you need to introduce your main murderer as a suspect earlier in the movie. Am I wrong here?
No.
Was Mrs. Voorhees even mentioned by name earlier in the movie? I see a PTA mom showing up at the end of the movie, and it's like, okay, well, who's this? And
yeah. And there's definitely... I feel like there's a movie to be made here, maybe, that leads up to the death of young Jason, right? And the mother snapping. But a whole series? I just don't see it.
They have depicted Jason's father. They've never depicted Jason's father. We go from there, but in the end, it would just be another Bates Motel Crystal Lake edition. You know what? His father could be Cropsey.
Oh, gosh.
From The Burning.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm kidding.
Dude.
You don't like that idea, huh? No?
That's kind of hokey.
I don't know why they can't get anything Friday 13th off the ground. This is just ridiculous.
I will also say this. There's a lot, and I know this goes against the Hollywood narrative, but there's a lot of great fan films out there that have done the, like Don't Walk in the Woods Alone or something like that. Yeah.
You can also watch various other slashers, like
True.
Thanksgiving was good. I like that.
Behind the Mask is a good one. I'm going to end up doing that as a watch party probably in October.
Yeah. Thanksgiving, that might be one you may want to check out one of these days.
Oh, definitely.
It's definitely like an old school style slasher, but done in modern times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to our final article of the evening at 2:12. I'm going to do 2:12. Let's do it. 0.00. I probably didn't need the 00 though. There we go. Alice Kingston is in the news. Doctor actress Alice Kingston decries cancel culture. Remember when she was on ER?
Yes, I do. I absolutely
on
do.
ER, and I felt bad for her character. She was a British doctor, but they made her go through all the training again when she became a resident at the American hospital, right? She had to do the early stuff again.
Yeah.
And then when she was over in Britain doing her hospital work, she says, the male is 24 years old, like the body says, and the doctor says, you mean the man? Like I guess they didn't like the American thing of calling men males and women females in the descriptions over.
Yeah.
I guess that was the thing. Okay. Like most sane individuals in the world, actress
yes,
Alice Kingston is both absolutely fed up with and ready to move past the entire unforgiving concept of cancel culture. Kingston, who readers recognize as having played River Song in Doctor Who and Dinah Lance in Arrow. I didn't know she was on Arrow.
I didn't either.
Offered her criticism of cancel culture during a recent interview given to the UK news outlet The Telegraph in promotion of her upcoming appearance in Douglas is Cancelled, an ITV drama in which its titular news anchor finds himself under fire from society after making an off-color joke while on air. Pressed by the outlet's Gabriel Tate as for her thoughts on the entire phenomena, the actress asserted, cancel culture is terrifying. Sort of fantastic, really, she added. I don't think people realize how dangerous canceling people is, what that has meant historically. Expanding on her viewpoint, Kingston continued, my generation is treading on eggshells, not knowing whether you say will unintentionally hurt somebody. I get really confused about pronouns. For instance, I'm not confident with how and when to use them. There is no empathy or sympathy. Opinions are immediate and black and white, she ultimately concluded of her thoughts. I hope we'll start coming back to a place where people can be kinder to each other, both in thinking about what they're going to say and hearing what's being said. To this end, Kingston then addressed the ever-growing discourse around the concept of authentic casting, i.e. casting actors in a role based on whether or not they share the exact immutable personal traits as a given character, and shared her hope that society can reach a balance where parts are open, potentially to everyone, but within the right context. Sometimes, if you want to be historically accurate, you've got to face the reality of what that would have meant in casting terms, said the Doctor Staple. People should be allowed to explore roles they would not have been able to explore before, and also not be deprived of roles of writing, or even of writing roles because they don't actually physically apply to them. We need sensible, fertile middle ground. And while not related to the concept of cancel culture per se, later on in the interview, Kingston was notably pressed for her thoughts on Doctor Who's current season 14, as penned by Russell T Davies and led by actor Ncuti Gatwa. Unfortunately for the curious, rather than having anything specific to say about the run, good or bad, the actress instead admitted, I've been too busy to watch anything that needs my focus and attention. I'm behind Ncuti and the whole new world of Disney Plus, she said. The fans will bring me up to date, no doubt. And by the looks of the series ratings, she's not alone in her thus far disinterest in the current run of Doctor Who. The season finale, Doctor Who's Empire of Death, is currently set to close out Gatwa's first proper outing as the titular Time Lord on June 22nd. You know what I have to say about the new Doctor Who? Isn't it a shame that the Acolyte is stealing all of its bad press? It's almost like people used to have the outrage thing, right? Like people are outraged by their handling of this thing, but now the outrage is all focused on Star Wars again, so nobody's caring about the outrage that would have been focused on Doctor Who because nobody cares anymore. It's just that's where we're at, I think, with all this. But anyway, here we are.
That's all we had tonight.
So what's coming up 5 after midnight? I actually not only will be checking out, but I will be stepping into, once again, I was invited to hang out with the folks over at Deleted Scenes channel for the Other Side of Midnight. That's the Other Side of the Midnight Eastern time, a little bit after 11 o'clock here. So let's say in about the next hour or so. Yeah, okay. And what's the subject? Or you guys not know yet? I don't know. Whatever floats your boat, right?
I don't know. It's whatever's on Deleted Scenes' mind. Generally, it's kind of a more chill stream, kind of to wind down the weekend. But when you invite me on, you press certain buttons. It might not be that chill.
Yeah. And let's see what else is going on. On Monday, you have a double feature, correct, on your channel? I do. We'll be watching. It's going to be a Bruce Willis double feature. We're going to be watching The Last Boy Scout and The Return of Bruno. The Return of Bruno is an interesting one. It's a mockumentary and concert, so it'll be a little bit different from what the usual film fare that we do on Monday nights. But I think you guys are going to enjoy it, especially if you've never seen it before. Well, even if you have seen it before. That's starting at 8 Central. Is it better than made-for-TV Doctor Strange? Yeah.
It kind of is, and I like, in a kitschy way, the made-for-TV Doctor Strange.
It's fine. I'm picking on it, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And then what was the other movie again? Bruno and
The Last Boy Scout.
Boy Scout. I remember he killed someone in a very interesting way.
He kills a couple people in interesting ways in that movie, yeah. But yeah.
All right. And then we have...
And deleted scenes is going, wait, it's all up to me? Oh, shit, no. Yeah, it's your show.
There's been some news that's broken between the stream starting and ending. You could find something.
Of course, there's always you always have the option of saying, I'm having internet trouble, and then just let me just take over the stream if you want.
Just talk about how excellent The Beekeeper is, which Troy needs to watch.
Oh, no, not the bees.
That's not the movie.
It's funny.
There you go. There's your double feature: The Beekeeper and the remake of The Wicker Man. Okay.
Netter and I just tonight watched the Puss in Boots sequel, whatever it was called. And there's this scene with the three bears, and they set up this like elaborate trap involving a beehive. Yeah. They end up getting caught in their own trap. It lands on the father's head, and he goes, "Oh no, not the bees!" And I'm like, I got that reference.
It's funny. No, that was a funny movie. Did you like Little Jack Horner?
The Last Wish, that's what it was. Yeah.
Little Jack Horner in it?
Yeah, Big Jack Horner.
Big Jack Horner, that's right. And Jiminy Cricket shows up, and he says, "What are you?" "Well, I'm your conscience."
Yes, because it was supposed to be, what's his name? Jimmy Stewart voice, yeah.
It's up to me to judge you.
Exactly.
And he kept
he's reminding himself, there's good in everyone. There's good in everyone.
You had a tragic childhood, didn't you? No, my family was quite wealthy and left me a chain of bakeries.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing redeemable about Jack Horner.
You're just irredeemable. You're a monster. How it took you this long to figure that out?
I also love the treatment of death in that movie. Good job. That was an excellent little animated movie.
Yes, that was a great movie.
And the cat lady.
Enjoyed it. Yeah, that's oh gosh. And I love every time he does something, she squirts him with the squirt bottle. And it's like, stop and think. You've got a cat that actually can cook. He's gotten up on a stool and he's making something in a frying pan. Pay attention to what's going on there.
I don't know. It's a funny. I'm sorry. It's just great. I had a lot of fun with that one. I'm gonna have to watch the other Shrek movies now because I saw the first one. I need to just watch them all in order. But okay.
Speaking of Shrek, a little bit of what do you call it? Twist ending at the end, or a little nod. Yeah.
So Tuesday night we have Sparkwood and 21 on Deleted Scenes channel.
Yeah. And Netter and I will be showing our vacation slides. Kinda. We're going to be showing pictures from the many years that she and I went to the Twin Peaks celebrations, and some of the guests that were there that we met, some of the activities. It was a lot of fun. Going to show off some of our memorabilia and kind of talk about what it was like for that 25 years, that we were waiting for more Twin Peaks. And then we'll start looking forward to next week when we will start doing rewatches of Season 3, Twin Peaks The Return.
Excellent. Looking forward to that. And then nothing on Wednesday this week. Thursday, Netter on Netter's Thursday thing. She's going to have a very special guest.
Yes. She couldn't make it last week, but this week, this time for sure. Elan Carter, former Playboy Playmate, daughter of one of the founding members of the Temptations, dancer on Soul Train, actress and model, musician, mother of an upcoming musician, and we'll be talking about all of that on Thursday with Elan Carter.
Excellent. Okay. Anyway, Yeah, that'll be an excellent stream. And then Friday we are going to be on your channel.
Yeah,
Friday
yep.
Last Call,
Uh,
which is a drink-themed thing.
yes, topic that Netter suggested that I kind of liked, and I don't know why we haven't done before. Last Call, actually talking about drinks and bar accoutrement and whatnot. In a way, it'll be a little bit like a free for all, but we're gonna probably try to focus it on various drinks. Some of my favorites. You guys can share some of yours, and maybe I'll get some ideas for drinks for future streams. So that'll be Friday night's Last Call, 9 Central, 10 Eastern.
Excellent. Brings us to Saturday.
Saturday over on Big Al Presents Films with Friends. Big Al, Netter, and myself will be watching the movie. Help me out if I get this wrong. The Magnificent Men and Their Flying Machines?
The Magnificent Men and Their Flying Machines, yes.
From 1960 something or other.
The one with Push the Button Max.
I don't remember. I haven't seen this movie since I was a kid.
Who's in it? Is Tony Curtis in that?
I wouldn't be surprised, probably.
I'm thinking. I don't know why I think Tony Curtis is in that, and Natalie Wood maybe.
1965.
Who's in there? Is that the one Natalie Wood and Tony Curtis?
James Fox, Ken Anakin, Stuart Whitman, Terry Thomas, Robert Morley.
I think of The Great Race. The Great Race was a different one. Okay.
Stuart Whitman, Sarah Miles, Terry Thomas, Robert Morley, James Fox, Red Skelton, Benny Hill, Jean-Pierre Castle.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a kind of an all-star cast for its day. Yeah.
It's probably fun. It sounds like a fun movie.
It's a British comedy, so it should actually be funny.
We do like the Brits comedies, yes.
But I haven't seen this since I was a kid. I saw this many years ago.
By the way, speaking of British stuff, I just started the book Dr. No, James Bond novel number 6, and I got to the point where he's at a meeting with M, and he says, "You have to give up your gun and take the Walter PPK, the Beretta. You have
Leave
to give
the
up
gun
the
and
Beretta.
take the cannoli.
Give up, give up the Beretta. No, this was the scene where it says you have to give up your Beretta. You're done. It jammed on you the last mission." And he's not. Bond is not happy. This is where he gets the Walter PPK, though.
I wanted to because I knew you were going to be bringing this up again. I did want to point out the artwork that I did for Friday the 13th here. I was kind of pleased with that. I thought it was kind of cool to put Jason behind the Geeky Geezers, and I was really happy with how that Charlize Theron as Pamela turned out.
She could work in that part. I mean, nice looking actress, but she can also do weird characters too.
Yeah, well, she's a good actress. Yes. I think that's there's a kind of a positive stereotyping I think actors often get. You think of Charlize Theron, you think, oh wow, hot babe, right? And it's like, yeah, that's probably why she did Monster, to say, you can ugly me up and focus on my acting and realize I'm a talented actress too,
Interesting. Huh.
Anyway, I was pretty proud of that one.
I think it turned out well. And that'll bring us back to Sunday, which will have
Sunday, all the deleted scenes with the Western cinema. And you know what we really should get in the habit of is remembering that on Thursday, after Netter's Thursday Things, Deleted Scenes does his weekend update where he talks about everything he's going to be doing all weekend, including a detailed rundown of Sunday. So
there we go.
That's what you should be checking out. So there you go.
All right, cool beans.
That's all I got.
All right. Y'all have a good week, and we will see you next time.
See you on the other side of midnight. Take care.
See you on the other side of midnight.
Bye-bye.
Well, not me. I got to get up early.